The story opens on a bright, sunny day at the All Japan University Karate Championships finals, with a packed stadium buzzing with excitement. In the ring, two finalists are locked in a fierce battle, exchanging powerful blows in the heat of the championship match. The crowd discusses one of the fighters, Hashizaki Inosuke, also known as the Bone Crusher. He's this year's favorite to win, especially since he lost the previous year, and everyone is eager to see if he'll take the title this time. With a powerful strike, Hashizaki blocks his opponent's kick, the impact so immense that it shatters the bone in his opponent's arm. While Hashizaki remains focused, his opponent screams in agony, his face contorted in a mixture of shock and excruciating pain. Hashizaki follows up with a decisive, powerful kick, aiming to end the match. The blow lands, and his opponent's eyes go white as he begins to fall, completely knocked out. A spectator shouts in disbelief, realizing Hashizaki won the point and the match with a single, devastating hit. With his opponent down, the announcer declares the winner, Hashizaki Inosuke. As the award ceremony begins, the crowd cheers, remarking that the other universities never stood a chance. But as Hashizaki receives his trophy, he looks strangely conflicted. A close-up reveals Hashizaki's face, not filled with joy, but with a deep, puzzling depression. The spectators notice his somber expression and speculate that he's worried about another fighter. His rival, a man named Yumioka Teru. It's revealed that Teru is the one who defeated Hashizaki last year. It seems Hashizaki desperately wanted a rematch against him in the finals, but Teru is nowhere to be seen. People in the crowd wonder why Teru didn't show up to the event, with one person mentioning a rumor that he stopped practicing karate altogether. Later, the scene shifts. Hashizaki walks alone in the pouring rain, his championship trophy stuffed unceremoniously into his bag, his expression still downcast. As he walks with his head hung low in the rain, a passerby can't help but notice the incredibly sad look on the champion's face. A close-up on Hashizaki's face reveals the depth of his frustration and disappointment, his features twisted in a silent grimace against the rain. Hashizaki's thoughts drift back to the past. He remembers the countless times he fought against his rival, Yumioka Teru, winning some and losing others, always pushing himself to the absolute limit. He reminisces that their intense rivalry is what pushed them to become so strong that no other karate fighter could match them. For Hashizaki, Teru was more than a rival. He was an inspiration, the person he wanted to become. They called each other their greatest rivals, but underneath it all, they saw each other as friends. Lost in his memories, Hashizaki silently questions why Teru stood him up at the tournament. His search brings him here, standing in the rain outside a run-down building labeled Yumioka's apartment. Hashizaki stands before a door, sensing someone inside. He calls out to, "I know you're there. Let's talk." A voice from behind the door, belonging to Inosuke, says they haven't spoken since last year's tournament. He asks to come in, and the door slowly opens. Hashizaki steps into a dark, messy room. A lone figure sits in a gaming chair, illuminated only by the glow of a computer monitor. His eyes fix on the silhouette of his old rival. With his voice tight with frustration, Hashizaki gets straight to the point. "Who? Why didn't you come to the tournament?" From the shadows of the messy room, the figure at the computer clicks his mouse, looking at the tournament results. Without turning, he flatly says to Hashizaki, "Looks like you won." Hashizaki explodes with rage, shouting that there's no point in a tournament if Teru isn't there. He calls him a coward for winning last year and then disappearing. From his chair, the figure just smirks and says, "Okay, then." The figure swivels around, revealing a shocking transformation. It's Yumioka Teru, but he's now overweight and slovenly. With a smug look, he asks, "I lose, you win. You happy now?" Hashizaki's eyes widen in sheer disbelief. While Teru casually opens a bag of snacks and pours a drink, Hashizaki stammers, unable to comprehend the change, asking, "Are you really Teru?" Teru points at Hashizaki with a dismissive look, stating that he doesn't really care anymore about who wins or loses, leaving Hashizaki stunned. Hashizaki presses him for a reason, but Teru simply smiles and says he's sorry, but he stopped practicing karate a long time ago. With a chillingly serious expression, Teru tells him, once you fight him, you'll understand why. Hashizaki is left confused, asking what. Teru explains that compared to a certain guy, everything they trained for was worthless. He calls this person a monster, while Hashizaki demands to know who he's talking about. Ignoring Hashizaki's questions, Teru picks up a glow stick and asks him to leave, saying that his favorite idol's live stream is about to start. The scene shifts to a quiet night at a Lawson convenience store. Inside, two employees, a young woman with her hair in buns and a meek-looking young man with glasses, stand behind the counter during a quiet moment. They go about their routine, serving a customer. The young man politely asks about a points card and completes the transaction, wishing the customer well as they leave. The female employee, Ms. Ching, tells her co-worker, Tsuyoshi, that she fried too many nuggets and asks if she can eat them, already putting one in her mouth. Tsuyoshi deadpants that she's doing it on purpose and points out that she's already eating them, to which she just continues chewing happily. Their routine continues as another customer comes to the counter asking for cigarettes and chicken nuggets, which the meek-looking Tsuyoshi bags for him. After the customer leaves, the two employees watch him go. Ms. Ching notes that he comes in a lot. Ms. Ching deduces the man's lonely life from his regular purchases and decides to nickname him Mr. Lonely Drinker, much to Tsuyoshi's disapproval, who thinks it's a sad nickname. Their conversation shifts to the new rice ball flavor, kimchi, and mushrooms, which Tsuyoshi tried and found horrible. Ms. Ching exclaims, "I knew it." They discuss how the manager ordered way too many of the new rice balls. Tsuyoshi reassures her that the manager will be the one in trouble, not them. Ms. Ching then asks Tsuyoshi to restock the shelves, and he agrees. While Tsuyoshi is busy restocking, an angry customer shouts for someone at the register. Tsuyoshi looks up, wondering where Ms. Ching went, only to see her casually eating in the back room. Tsuyoshi hurries back to the counter and apologizes profusely to a group of annoyed delinquents who are tired of waiting. Just as the delinquents are getting aggressive with the timid clerk, Hashizaki enters the store with an intimidating presence, slams a can on the counter, and cuts in line, telling the delinquents that he was there first. Tsuyoshi is caught in the middle, stammering nervously as he finds himself between the angry delinquents and the imposing figure of Hashizaki. Hashizaki completely ignores the delinquents and stares intently at the terrified clerk. He asks, "Are you Kawabata Tsuyoshi?" The clerk, sweating, confirms that he is. A bead of sweat runs down a confused Tsuyoshi's face as Hashizaki glares at him with intense, focused eyes, his mind flashing back to his conversation with Teru. In the flashback, Hashizaki confirms the name Kawabata Tsuyoshi. Teru warns him with absolute certainty that no matter how much Hashizaki has trained in the past year, he will never defeat this person. The flashback continues, with a desperate Hashizaki grabbing Teru and demanding to know where this monster is. Teru nonchalantly tells him that if he goes to a convenience store in Sakai City at night, he'll probably meet him. The scene then snaps back to the present, with Hashizaki staring at the meek clerk, utterly bewildered. After a moment of tense silence, Hashizaki's shoulders slump and he dismisses the clerk, saying, "No, sorry, never mind," while Tsuyoshi timidly asks if he can help him. As Hashizaki leaves the store, the delinquents mock him, calling him a piece of shit. Tsuyoshi politely thanks him for coming. Sitting on a bench outside, Hashizaki sighs in frustration, believing he was made a fool. He opens a drink, thinking to himself that there's no way a guy with a body like that could be a martial artist. Just then, Hashizaki overhears the delinquents leaving the store, laughing about how they scared someone. At the same time, Ms. Ching returns and urgently tells Tsuyoshi that the blonde delinquent puts something in his pocket. Ms. Ching prepares to call the police, but Tsuyoshi, surprisingly, tells her he's got it and thanks her, much to the delinquent's annoyance. Tsuyoshi calmly walks up to the group of delinquents and politely asks them to empty their pockets, which only serves to anger them. The blonde delinquent scoffs, admitting they took something but blaming Tsuyoshi for letting another customer cut in line. Tsuyoshi looks flustered, trying to respond. Watching from the bench, Hashizaki mutters to himself, thinking the clerk is going to get himself beaten up. Tsuyoshi apologizes for the line-cutting incident but calmly states that it's no excuse for shoplifting. The delinquent gets furious and grabs Tsuyoshi's collar. The delinquent raises a fist, threatening to kill Tsuyoshi, while Tsuyoshi himself remains completely expressionless, his glasses hiding his eyes. From outside, Hashizaki sighs, thinking he has no choice but to save the clerk. But before he can move, a scream erupts. The blonde delinquent is suddenly on the ground, writhing in agony. Hashizaki jumps to his feet, completely shocked and bewildered, trying to process what just happened in that split second. Hashizaki analyzes the movement, realizing it wasn't a locking technique or a simple counter. He thinks that as soon as the punch was thrown, the clerk did something impossibly smooth. Hashizaki is left wondering what Tsuyoshi even did. The other delinquents are equally stunned and furious, shouting at Tsuyoshi as their friend writhes on the floor. Another delinquent attacks, but Tsuyoshi effortlessly redirects his arm, pokes him in the eyes, and then flips him onto the ground with shocking speed and precision. The third delinquent, wearing a baseball cap, throws a punch, but Tsuyoshi ducks under it and delivers a swift elbow to his face, sending him crashing to the floor. The final delinquent, with a shaved head, attempts a kick. His friend tries to warn him, but it's too late. Tsuyoshi dodges the kick and, with pinpoint accuracy, strikes the delinquent squarely in the groin, causing him to cry out in pain. As the delinquent doubles over, Tsuyoshi delivers a second, brutal strike to the same spot. Hashizaki watches in disbelief, realizing he just hit him in the balls twice. With a final, devastating punch to the groin, Tsuyoshi finishes the fight, his movements brutally efficient. The last delinquent collapses, foaming at the mouth, his body twitching as he wets himself from the sheer pain and shock. The scene is one of utter carnage. All four delinquents lie defeated on the floor. Tsuyoshi stands calmly over them, while Hashizaki stares from the entrance, completely stunned into silence. With his glasses reflecting the light, Tsuyoshi calmly states his philosophy. I will not start a fight. However, I will finish any and all fights that are brought against me. Hashizaki stares, his mind racing as Tsuyoshi exhales calmly, his glasses obscuring his eyes. The contrast between the violent outcome and the clerk's demeanor is staggering. Hashizaki internally analyzes what he just witnessed. Tsuyoshi didn't use a recognizable martial art like Aikido or Kung Fu. He simply dodged every attack and sent their momentum straight back at them. He realizes that's not all. Tsuyoshi specifically targeted their most vulnerable points, not just to injure, but to completely and utterly remove their will to fight. Teru's words echo in his mind. Compared to him, everything we worked for was for nothing. With dawning horror and excitement, Hashizaki realizes it's him. There's no doubt about it. As the police arrive to handle the defeated delinquents, Tsuyoshi sighs and turns to go back to work. But Hashizaki, his voice filled with urgency, calls out for him to wait. With sweat on his brow and a look of desperate intensity, Hashizaki makes his request. Will you please fight me? Tsuyoshi looks back at him, seemingly unfazed. Tsuyoshi calmly agrees, but explains that he's working and has a break in 1 hour. Hashizaki, ecstatic, immediately agrees to wait. Before Hashizaki can get too excited, Tsuyoshi stops him, stating that he has several rules that must be agreed upon before they can fight. Tsuyoshi lays out his first conditions. They will only fight once, there will be no second match, and it must take place in a quiet, secluded location away from prying eyes. Then he adds his final, most important rule, his glasses glinting. Even if you lose against me, please do not talk about me to anyone. His demand for secrecy is absolute. A wild, determined grin spreads across Hashizaki's face. The thrill of facing a true monster, a real challenge, is overwhelming. He clenches his teeth and agrees. Fine. The scene cuts to a bonus panel. Yumioka Teru, now going by Aizen Sensei, is back at his computer, announcing his return to his viewers while proudly showing off his belly. Hashizaki, apparently watching his stream, asks in disbelief if he's really Aizen-sensei as Teru casually snacks on junk food. Hashizaki asks why he's back, and Teru, pointing at the screen, explains he's only back because of the coronavirus and tells his viewers to stay safe. Meanwhile, another bonus panel shows Teru at what appears to be a live idol concert, screaming with passionate joy for his favorite idol, Miko. The story transitions, showing a glimpse of what's to come in the next chapter, the drive to become a stronger fighter. In the mountains, Hashizaki trains with ferocious intensity. All he's ever wanted, all he's ever trained for, was to become stronger. He unleashes a powerful punch against a massive boulder. The impact from his punch is immense, sending deep cracks spiderwebbing across the surface of the giant rock. The scene shifts back to the low-sun convenience store, signaling that the hour of waiting is almost over. Tsuyoshi checks his watch as the sun begins to set. Outside, Hashizaki waits patiently, then finally asks Tsuyoshi to come out and fight. The location is set, a quiet, empty park nearby. Hashizaki, now changed into his full karategi, stands ready and waiting, emanating an aura of pure focus. Hashizaki glares with determination, his muscles tense. "I've been waiting," he says, his voice filled with anticipation. As Tsuyoshi arrives, still in his work uniform, Hashizaki reminds him of the stakes. Kawabata Tsuyoshi. One fight, no second match. As I said before, Tsuyoshi tells Hashizaki that he will try to go easy on him so he doesn't get hurt. But then he adds, "I recommend you give it your all so that you do not have any regrets," leaving Hashizaki momentarily stunned. Hashizaki scoffs, his pride as a martial artist ignited. He declares he won't go easy and doesn't need Tsuyoshi to go easy on him either. He stretches, ready for battle, and says, "Let's start." Tsuyoshi simply replies, "Understood." The fight begins. Hashizaki takes a deep breath and assumes his fighting stance, his focus absolute. Across from him, Tsuyoshi stands casually, as if waiting for a bus. Hashizaki decides his first move. Believing Tsuyoshi uses an unknown style of Chinese kung fu, he knows he needs to close the distance first. He lunges forward, launching a powerful front kick directly at Tsuyoshi's face. But Tsuyoshi, with an almost imperceptible lean, dodges the kick. It misses his face by mere millimeters. Hashizaki is stunned by the effortless evasion. Undeterred, Hashizaki immediately follows up with a swift roundhouse kick, but Tsuyoshi blocks it with a casual forearm, completely unfazed. Hashizaki continues his assault with a jabbing punch, but again, Tsuyoshi dodges with a slight turn of his head, his expression unchanging. He throws another powerful punch, but it meets only air as Tsuyoshi sways out of the way with impossible grace. Hashizaki grabs Tsuyoshi's head, attempting a powerful knee kick to a vital point, a move that should be inescapable. Yet somehow, Tsuyoshi slips from his grasp. Hashizaki's knee hits nothing but air, causing him to lose his balance and tumble to the ground. On the ground, Hashizaki looks up in disbelief as Tsuyoshi stands over him, completely untouched and still wearing his placid, blank expression. Hashizaki gets back to his feet, utterly bewildered. Not a single one of his attacks has landed. He realizes with a jolt that Tsuyoshi has anticipated every move he's made. He stares at Tsuyoshi, rethinking everything. He concludes that this man is no normal martial artist, and his movements are not Chinese kung fu or any other style he knows. Hashizaki comments that Tsuyoshi doesn't seem like an amateur. Tsuyoshi, with a blank look, vaguely agrees, replying, "Yes, something like that." Hashizaki decides to change tactics. He introduces himself as Hashizaki Enosuk, the winner of the All Japan Karate Championships, before asking, "Do you remember a guy named Yumioka Teru?" Tsuyoshi thinks for a moment, the name vaguely familiar. Hashizaki explains that Teru is a karate user like himself, and that he heard Teru fought Tsuyoshi about 6 months ago. Tsuyoshi has a faint glimmer of recognition. Hashizaki leans in, his voice filled with intensity, and asks how. How strong was he? After a moment of thought, Tsuyoshi gives a devastatingly simple answer. I don't remember him very well, but I think he was about average. Hashizaki is left completely thunderstruck. A flashback shows a bruised and defeated Yumioka Teru after his fight with Tsuyoshi. In the present, Hashizaki can only mutter, "I see," as the reality of the situation sinks in. Another flashback to Teru's warning echoes in Hashizaki's mind. Compared to him, everything we did was for naught. Standing under the full moon, Hashizaki finally understands the true meaning of his rival's despair. The memory shifts to the previous year's tournament. Yumioka Teru is declared the winner as a defeated Hashizaki lies on the mat. Teru extends a hand to his rival, saying, "Good fight, Ainosuke," showing sportsmanship despite their fierce battle. With a smile, Teru had told him, "You're the only one who can evenly fight against me. I'm proud to have fought against you." For Hashizaki, these words were the ultimate praise. Clasping hands, Hashizaki had vowed, "Next year, I'll be the one to win." All of his intense training was dedicated to defeating this one man. The memory fades to Hashizaki training relentlessly in the mountains, his hands bloody, panting for breath as he pushes himself, whispering more. With gritted teeth, he screams that his current strength isn't enough. All that power was to defeat Teru, a goal that now seems so small and misguided in the face of a true monster. Back in the present, a fire ignites in Hashizaki's eyes. He clenches his fist, a new resolve hardening his features as he finally understands everything. He remembers Teru's words about no longer caring who wins or loses after they had both trained so hard. He now understands the crushing feeling of facing an unbeatable opponent. His back muscles ripple as he tightens his fist. For his rival's sake, for the honor of all their hard work, he declares to himself, "That is why I need to win this." Hashizaki rips off the top of his karatiji, revealing his chiseled physique. With renewed determination, he shouts, "Let's end this, Kawabata Tsuyoshi." Tsuyoshi calmly states that his break time is short, and he doesn't think Hashizaki will be able to land a hit anyway. Hashizaki simply replies, "Just wait and see." Hashizaki unleashes another furious barrage of kicks, but Tsuyoshi continues to effortlessly dodge every single one, his movements fluid and precise. Letting out a fierce battle cry, Hashizaki continues his assault, throwing everything he has at the unmoving clerk. He lunges forward, his movements a blur, kicking up dust and debris as he tries to overwhelm Tsuyoshi with sheer speed and power. This is the most critical aspect of karate, concentrating all of one's peak physical strength into a single, devastating punch. Through years of relentless training, applying constant pressure to their fists, a karateka's knuckles become as hard as rocks. When that is combined with the spin of the waist, the spin of the fist, and the shifting of weight, the power is multiplied exponentially. The result is a fist strong enough to split boulders, a technique Hashizaki has mastered, and he's about to unleash it on Tsuyoshi. With a thunderous roar, Hashizaki unleashes his ultimate technique, the rock-splitting strike, a punch carrying the full weight of his training and dedication. But as the powerful punch nears its target, Tsuyoshi simply extends his palm, stopping the devastating blow dead in its tracks, as if it were nothing. Hashizaki stares in utter disbelief, seeing his ultimate, rock-shattering punch completely neutralized by a simple open palm. Before Hashizaki can react, Tsuyoshi retracts his hand and delivers a single, precise strike to Hashizaki's chest. The impact ripples through his body, and Hashizaki's eyes widen in pain and shock. Hashizaki collapses to his knees, gasping for air, the single blow having completely overwhelmed him. Tsuyoshi stands over him, calmly stating, "As I said before, I did not start fights, but I will finish them." With that, he announces his break is almost over and begins to walk away, leaving Hashizaki defeated. Hashizaki can only watch him go, stammering why. In utter shock, his world completely shattered. Tsuyoshi arrives back at the convenience store just as his co-worker, Ms. Ching, is leaving. She remarks that he seems to get into scuffles a lot. In the background, Hashizaki is still kneeling in defeat as Tsuyoshi nonchalantly replies that he fought delinquents and a karate user. The next morning, an alarm clock rings. We see the humble apartment of Kawabata Tsuyoshi, a 22-year-old part-time worker, as he begins another ordinary day. In a monologue, Tsuyoshi describes his simple life. Living alone, working at a store, no hobbies. His only problem is that he keeps getting into fights with random people. He reflects on why this happens, concluding that it's probably because, so far, he hasn't managed to lose a single fight. The day begins for Kawabata Tsuyoshi in the park. A group of elderly people gather around him, expressing their gratitude. One person exclaims that their body feels much better, all thanks to him, while others chime in, eagerly asking him to teach them again. After a quick exercise, Tsuyoshi, a gentle-looking young man with glasses, smiles and agrees. Sure, he says, if you're ready, let us begin. Tsuyoshi's routine continues as he puts on his favorite classical tunes and rides his bike past the Tamagawa River. He then stops to buy an iced coffee at the very same convenience store where he works. He heads for home, enjoying the summer winds. But he has a premonition that his quiet enjoyment is about to be short-lived. And just like that, his peaceful moment is over. A large figure blocks his path, dragging him back to reality. A hooded man confronts him, asking, "Are you Kawabata Tsuyoshi?" Caught off guard, Tsuyoshi simply replies, "Yes, can I help you?" The man is an intimidating figure, dressed in a tattered coat with a cigarette in his mouth. He holds the leash of a fierce dog, which is restrained by a muzzle. With a menacing grin, the man makes his intentions clear. "I'm gonna beat you up," he sneers. Tsuyoshi, still on his bike, looks on in alarm. The man pulls back his hood, revealing his face. He takes an aggressive step forward as his dog growls, ready to attack. The assailant lunges, not at Tsuyoshi, but at his bicycle. He throws a devastating punch that smashes the bike's frame to pieces. The man follows up with another punch, grinning wickedly. But Tsuyoshi stands his ground, dodging the attack with ease. In a flash, Tsuyoshi retaliates. It's not a powerful blow, but a light, precise tap to the man's stomach. The attacker's eyes widen in sheer disbelief and shock. The seemingly tough man collapses to his knees, completely defeated. He stares blankly, unable to comprehend what just happened, as his dog whimpers in the background. The dog, now terrified, runs away yelping. The scene changes, and Tsuyoshi calmly watches as his attacker is forced to buy him a new bicycle. Tsuyoshi reflects that while he often gets into weird fights, sometimes he gets something good out of it, in this case, a 25,000 yen bike. Tsuyoshi arrives back at his home. As he walks in, a man greets him with a cheerful good morning. Tsuyoshi thinks to himself that even he has dreams he'd like to accomplish. He enters a messy room, filled with canvases and art supplies. It's a studio. He sees a man with dark hair already busy painting and notes that Mr. Tanaka is here. Tsuyoshi reveals his personal dream. He wants to be a painter. He, along with his friends, are renting this single-room studio apartment for 160,000 yen, splitting the cost. With resolve, he decides to start his own painting session. Just then, another man with long hair, Mr. Satu, walks in. "Good morning," he says, noticing the other two are already at it. Now, all three of them are in the studio, ready to paint. Tsuyoshi's housemates are introduced. The cheerful Mr. Sadataku, age 27, and the more reserved Mr. Tanaka Gen, age 25. Tsuyoshi mentions he's practicing last year's entrance exam subject again. Mr. Tanaka is focused, but Mr. Sada scoffs at the idea, declaring that they are already artists just by being there and don't need to go to university. Tsuyoshi says plainly that he doesn't want to flunk the exam again, so he'll do his best. His friends, Tanaka and Satu, are horrified. He said the forbidden words, mentioning the exam which they have failed on their 6th and 7th tries. Later that night, Tsuyoshi gets ready to leave. He tells his friends he's done for the night and is heading off to work. While walking, he receives a notification on his phone. It's a message from his coworker, Samaki, also known as Ms. Ching, reminding him they have a shift together. A small smile appears on his face as he thinks of her. As he's about to reply to the message, his path is blocked by yet another challenger appearing out of the darkness. "You're finally here," the imposing figure says. Tsuyoshi looks up from his phone, his expression shifting from pleasant surprise to mild annoyance. The man is tall and muscular, with long dark hair and bandaged arms. He sizes Tsuyoshi up and asks, "You're Kawabata Tsuyoshi?" His voice drips with disdain. "Your body is so flimsy, and yet you call yourself the strongest man alive. You're kidding me." Tsuyoshi, looking completely bewildered by the title, can only reply, "I've never called myself that." The challenger, ignoring Tsuyoshi's denial, gets worked up. "I don't want to hear your excuses," he yells. "Let's see if you can handle my flicker jab." But the fight is over in an instant. With a single, almost lazy-looking touch from Tsuyoshi, the challenger is left face down on the pavement. Tsuyoshi looks at his watch and casually remarks, "I'm glad I left a little early." Tsuyoshi arrives at the Losun convenience store for his shift. His co-worker, Samaki, also known as Ms. Ching, is on her break and sees him sitting at a table. "Tsuyoshi, what are you doing?" she asks. He explains he's drawing a poster for a new item. Ms. Ching is impressed and asks to see it. She reveals that she came from China to learn Japanese and recognizes his artistic ambition, saying she can see it in his drawings. Having become good friends over many shifts, she warmly tells him, "I'll root for you." Tsuyoshi finishes his cartoonish poster for a new ice cream bar and greets his manager on the way in for his shift. Later, the manager sits at his desk, looking at Tsuyoshi's handiwork. He sighs, thinking to himself, didn't he say he wanted to be an artist? His drawings suck. As Tsuyoshi walks home after a long day, feeling tired, he is once again stopped by a large figure emerging from the shadows. "You there, wait a moment," the figure commands. A man in a traditional hakama, and GI introduces himself with an air of superiority. "My name is Tsukikijoboro. Are you Kawabata Tsuyoshi?" he asks, then immediately follows up with, "I'd like to fight you." Tsuyoshi calmly agrees, but states that he has several conditions that must be met. Tsukikij eyes him suspiciously and asks what they are. Tsuyoshi lays down his terms. They will fight only once, and if Tsukikij loses, he must promise to never speak about Tsuyoshi to anyone. After a brief pause, Tsukikij smirks and agrees. With the terms agreed upon, Tsukikij announces the beginning of the duel. He declares his Soshir Mugen style and gets into a stance, ready to draw his wooden sword. In the very next moment, the fight is already over. Tsukikij lies face down on the ground, completely defeated. Tsuyoshi stands over him, victorious without any apparent struggle. As if nothing happened, Tsuyoshi puts his headphones on, starts his music, and continues his walk home, leaving his defeated opponent behind. Arriving back at his apartment complex, Tsuyoshi begins his nightly wind-down routine by making himself a warm cup of instant milk tea. He then settles down on the floor of his room and flips through an art book, choosing paintings that best fit his mood for the day. He admires a piece by Vermeer, noting how beautiful it is. With a large yawn, Tsuyoshi notes the time. It's already 3 a.m. He lies down in bed with a peaceful smile, finally ready for sleep after an eventful day. However, Tsuyoshi is being watched. Hiding behind a utility pole, a shadowy figure with glowing eyes observes him. The watcher recalls the 3 opponents Tsuyoshi effortlessly defeated in a single day and spots a missing dog poster, likely from the first challenger. The watcher, revealed to be Hashizaki, clenches his bandaged fist. He is filled with a burning resolve. "I'm going to find out his secret," he declares to himself, the secret to his strength. This marks the end of a chapter. The scene flashes back to Tsuyoshi on his bicycle, being stopped by a large figure and dragged back to the reality of another fight. The perspective shifts to Hashizaki's investigation. He has tracked down an overweight man he addresses as Aizen-sensei, asking him for information. This is part of Hashizaki's obsessive quest to understand Tsuyoshi. The story then jumps to the beginning of Chapter 4, inside a hospital. Hashizaki is sitting with a doctor who is grimly reviewing his x-rays. "Oh my, looks like you outdid yourself today," the doctor says. "It's completely shattered." The doctor is curious about the cause of such a severe injury. Hashizaki forces a laugh, claiming, "I broke my arm after doing a few punches." Meanwhile, the x-ray on the screen shows his bone isn't just broken, it's shattered into pieces. The doctor expresses his amazement, stating he's never seen such a clean break. He informs Hashizaki that rehabilitation will be necessary. Hashizaki, however, stares back with unsettling intensity, asserting that the injury will heal very quickly. Hashizaki leaves the doctor's office, his arm heavily bandaged and secured in a sling. As he stands grimly in the elevator, the reality of his shattering defeat begins to set in, hardening his expression with a quiet, burning determination. His relentless search eventually leads him here, to a low-sun convenience store. With his arm still in a sling, Hashizaki stares from a distance, his intense gaze fixed on an unbelievable sight. The monster who effortlessly shattered his arm is simply working a shift as an oblivious cashier. Hashizaki is consumed by his defeat, replaying the moment in his mind. He marvels at the immense strength contained in Tsuyoshi's small frame. He concludes there must be a secret to his power and becomes determined to learn more about him. Back in his modern high-rise apartment, Hashizaki, with his arms still bandaged, gets on his laptop to begin his search. He types Kawabata Tsuyoshi into the Google search engine. The first result that pops up is a clickbait article. "I made $1 million even though I'm small and wear glasses. How to make millions easily." The search results are full of useless self-help blogs and get-rich-quick schemes, all using the name Kawabata Tsuyoshi. Hashizaki looks on with growing annoyance. He comes across a profile for a business psychology management professor, also named Kawabata Tsuyoshi, whose cheerful photo looks nothing like the man who defeated him. "Who the hell is this?" he yells in frustration. Frustrated, he realizes there are too many people with the same common name. He changes his search query, now typing in strongest martial artist. The new search yields results about an urban legend, a mysterious figure known only as the world's strongest man. Hashizaki's eyes widen as he reads the headline. He reads on, learning about a legend of a man who all the strongest martial artists acknowledged as the best. It is said that they all fought him, but none were able to win. The article gives this legendary figure a nickname, the Cold-Hearted Reaper. It promises an exclusive interview with the man on the next page. Hopeful, Hashizaki moves to click the link. However, the link doesn't lead to an interview. Instead, it opens a pornographic advertisement, much to Hashizaki's shock and disgust. To make matters worse, the pop-up triggers a fake virus warning. Hashizaki realizes the link was just bait for a porn site and yells out, "Damn it," in a fit of rage. Having concluded that there's no reliable information on the internet, a furious Hashizaki gives up on his online search. He decides to take matters into his own hands and is seen running out of his building and hailing a taxi. Meanwhile, in a messy apartment, the pop idol group Metamorphoses is holding a live stream to announce their new song for their 2-year anniversary. Watching the stream with rapt attention is Yumioka Teru, Hashizaki's former rival, now an overweight idol fanatic. He's ecstatic as the group announces their new song, Dokidoki Summer Paradise, will be released on August 19th. Just as the idol group is about to announce a special present for those who pre-order, Hashizaki bursts into the apartment, yelling Teru's name. He's out of breath from running up the stairs and desperately says he needs to ask him something. Panting, Hashizaki tells Teru about his encounter with Kawabata Tsuyoshi, confirming that everything Teru had told him was true. Teru, however, is annoyed, only half listening as Hashizaki interrupts his live stream. Hashizaki laments that Tsuyoshi is impossibly strong, and all the training and effort he put in was meaningless against him. Teru seems to react, as he knows what Hashizaki is talking about. As the idol group on the live stream says their goodbyes, Hashizaki finishes his story, still trying to catch his breath. Teru, however, just stares blankly at his computer screen, humming along to the music. Hashizaki pleads with Teru, begging him to share any information he has. Please, tell me more about him. Tell me who told you about him. Anything will do. Teru finally snaps, but not about Tsuyoshi. He explodes in rage, screaming, "Shut up!" at Hashizaki. He furiously explains that Hashizaki barged in during a crucial part of the live stream. This is a live stream. You get it? I won't be able to listen to it later. Teru gets in Hashizaki's face, irate that he missed the CD release details. He mockingly asks if Hashizaki will buy it for him, then calls him a simpleton and tells him to shut up. Completely bewildered, Hashizaki can only apologize. Hashizaki is kicked out. As he desperately pleads for help, Teru coldly tells him off. You lost against him, right? He broke your arm? So why don't you go ask him directly? Then he slams the door in his face. Dejected and with no new leads, Hashizaki walks through Tachikawa Station. With his arms still in a sling, he boards a train, alone with his thoughts and his failure. Hashizaki, his arms still in a sling from his previous encounter, stands grimly outside the convenience store. Inside, the clerk, Kawabata Tsuyoshi, and his co-worker, Tsamaki, look up, startled by the intense presence of the new arrival. Hashizaki places a single can of black coffee on the counter. His eyes are fixed on Tsuyoshi, the unassuming clerk who holds the secret to overwhelming power. Both Tsuyoshi and Tsamaki watch him, sensing this is no ordinary customer. With a strained voice, Hashizaki tries to speak, mentioning the name Kawabata Tsuyoshi and saying he has a question. The sheer desperation in his tone catches Tsuyoshi completely off guard. Attempting to maintain a semblance of normalcy, Tsuyoshi gestures to the floor markings. He politely informs Hashizaki that he needs to wait in the designated line like everyone else. Tsuyoshi explains that his behavior is making the other customers uncomfortable. Indeed, a few shoppers are now casting worried glances in their direction. Humbled, Hashizaki mutters an apology. He stands dejectedly at the counter. From the side, Tsamaki watches the scene unfold, thinking to herself that this strange man really needs to learn some basic manners. A little later, Tsuyoshi calls for the next person in line, but Hashizaki remains. Determined, he steps forward once more, placing the same can of coffee on the counter. He isn't finished yet. Tsuyoshi mechanically states the price. That will be 128 yen. But Hashizaki is lost in his own world, the pain in his arm a constant reminder of his humiliating defeat. What can I do, he wonders, to find out the secret to his strength? As Tsuyoshi repeats the price, his hand slaps the counter with a sudden flurry of motion. He then stares in surprise at the pile of coins that Hashizaki has just dropped to pay for the coffee. The transaction is done, but Hashizaki's real purpose is now laid bare. His face contorts with desperation as he leans in and screams, "Please, tell me." He continues to shout, begging to learn more about Tsuyoshi, frightening the other customers. His co-worker Tsamaki turns to him and asks, "What's up, Tsuyoshi?" Another weird customer. Tsuyoshi tries to calm the situation, pointing out the other customers and apologizing that he can't help. As he does, he notices Tsamaki snacking on chicken nuggets again, sighing at his chaotic workplace. But Hashizaki is relentless. He grits his teeth, his mind made up. This is a once-in-a-lifetime chance, and he refuses to let it slip away. His pleas turn into demands. "I'll wait for you. When you get off work." Flustered, Tsuyoshi warns him that he's being a bother and threatens to call the police if he doesn't stop. The threat is meaningless to him. "I don't care," Hashizaki roars, slamming his good hand on the counter. Tsuyoshi is genuinely shocked by the man's utter disregard for consequences. Tsuyoshi is stunned into silence. Tsamaki, however, seems impressed by Hashizaki's nerve. Hashizaki's face crumples, tears welling his eyes as he pleads, "Please, you're my only hope. I beg of you." In a shocking display of utter desperation, Hashizaki throws himself onto the convenience store floor, bowing low. "Make me your disciple," he begs. A horrified Tsuyoshi pleads for him to stop this embarrassing display. Panicked and desperate to end the scene, Tsuyoshi hastily gives in. He thrusts a flyer at Hashizaki, telling him to go there and to please just leave. It's something I do as a volunteer, he explains quickly. Hashizaki looks at the paper in his hand. It's a simple photocopied flyer for Tai Chi classes. His gaze then shifts to a nearby apartment building, his mind now fixed on this new, unexpected path. Alone, Hashizaki examines the flyer more closely. Tai Chi. So, Kawabata was a Chinese kung fu martial artist, he concludes. The fact that the classes are free only deepens his admiration. He sees it as proof of a generous and noble spirit. He opens the door to his home, still clutching the flyer. A new resolve forms within him. He decides he must follow Tsuyoshi's lead, not just as a martial artist, but as a human being. That evening, as he stands on his balcony, Hashizaki thinks of his rival, Teru. He stares out at the city lights and makes a promise to himself. He will keep moving forward and bettering himself, no matter what. Before the sun has even fully risen, Hashizaki is already putting his new resolve into action. He runs through the city streets, panting with effort, following the signs toward his destination. Sweating and exhausted, he finally arrives at the entrance to Showa Park, the location mentioned on the flyer. He pauses to catch his breath, ready to take his first step on a new path. He glances at his watch. It's only 5:30 a.m. As he walks into the park, he's surprised to see a group of elderly people already gathered. He must have a lot of serious students. Hashizaki thinks, assuming they are all there for the same intense training he seeks. As Hashizaki joins the group, he's surprised to find only elderly people. An old woman named Mrs. Siko offers him a candy. One of the men is impressed, noting that getting a candy from her is a sign of favor. Just then, Kawabata Tsuyoshi arrives, casually wishing everyone a good morning. Hashizaki watches him, reminding himself not to be deceived by appearances. For all he knows, these seniors could be hidden Tai Chi masters. Upon seeing Tsuyoshi, Hashizaki immediately bows deeply, loudly apologizing for bothering him the previous night and thanking him for letting him come. The other members greet Tsuyoshi casually, calling him Mr. Kawabata. Tsuyoshi is completely bewildered by the formal apology from the new kid so early in the morning. The other seniors murmur amongst themselves, surprised to see a young person joining them. Tsuyoshi begins the class, asking the newcomer to introduce himself. To the crowd of seniors, the national karate champion formally announces himself. My name is Hashizaki Ainosuke. The class starts with simple stretches, which Hashizaki struggles through awkwardly. Then, Tsuyoshi instructs them to get into the Qigong posture. Hashizaki is stunned, having never seen anything like this in his training. As they hold the posture, Hashizaki feels the atmosphere shift. He observes the serious expression on an elderly man next to him, and even thinks Tsuyoshi's stance looks different, more rigid and powerful. He is seeing what he wants to see. Tsuyoshi announces that they will now practice some forms. Hashizaki's eyes widen in anticipation. Finally, he thinks, this must be it, the secret to Tsuyoshi's true power. Tsuyoshi leads the class through a series of slow, gentle movements like the Hanyuan Gong and Xie Danbian stances. Hashizaki tries to follow, but feels incredibly weird. The movements are smooth and slow, completely alien to his explosive karate background. Hashizaki is confused. Every form flows into the next seamlessly, yet they feel like separate moves. He can't tell where one begins and the other ends. As Tsuyoshi instructs another student, Hashizaki comes to one certain conclusion. This style of martial arts is powerful. Hashizaki thinks with conviction, despite his confusion. Just then, Tsuyoshi claps his hands. Okay, that's all for today. Thank you for coming. Hashizaki is shocked. Wait, it's over. While he stands there dumbfounded, the other members are already chatting casually. Tsuyoshi thanks them and says he'll see them the day after tomorrow as he prepares to leave. Hashizaki confronts Tsuyoshi, asking in disbelief if the class is really over already. Tsuyoshi, carrying his bag, simply and calmly replies, yes, that's it. Hashizaki presses on, asking if continuing with Tai Chi will allow him to become as strong as Tsuyoshi. He eagerly offers to join if Tsuyoshi does any secret training by himself, but Tsuyoshi replies that this is the full extent of his exercises. As Hashizaki tries to process this, he overhears some of the other members. They chat about how their joint pain is gone and they're feeling much better, all thanks to Tsuyoshi. Hashizaki is completely bewildered. What he witnessed was monstrous strength, yet what he's learning is gentle exercise for seniors. The two just don't add up. As his mind spins with questions, Tsuyoshi simply says, "I'm going home, okay?" and walks away. 1 month later, the scene shifts to the group having a pleasant post-exercise picnic. The peaceful scene indicates that Hashizaki has been patiently attending the Tai Chi classes this entire time. Hashizaki now seems to be a regular member of the group. He sits with the seniors, sharing tea and snacks, and they address him warmly as Mr. Hashizaki. Mrs. Siko offers Hashizaki a brown sugar candy. He accepts it with a genuine smile, saying that he loves them. He has become comfortable and friendly with the elderly students. Hashizaki even helps out with community activities, showing a festival mock-up he designed to another member. Mr. General he's praised for his artistic talent, a side of him he rarely explores. Despite the praise he receives and his friendly demeanor, Hashizaki has a moment of intense internal crisis. He smiles on the outside, but his inner voice screams, "What the fuck am I doing?" A few days later, another class comes to an end. Hashizaki watches as Tsuyoshi prepares to take his leave. He reflects that even after attending for a while, he's made no real progress in understanding the man's power. Finally working up the nerve, Hashizaki tries to corner Tsuyoshi after class. "Mr. Kawabata, I need to ask you something," he calls out, but Tsuyoshi bluntly brushes him off, saying he's busy. Hashizaki feels a wall between them that he can't seem to break through. Just as he's feeling dejected, Mr. Jin from the class asks to have a word with him. But Hashizaki's mind is elsewhere. He knows he needs to do something more, something decisive, to get the answers he seeks. Abruptly, Hashizaki apologizes and sprints away, yelling that he has something else to do. The seniors watch him go, remarking that it's unusual for him to skip their after-class tea. Hashizaki is done waiting. Hashizaki chases after Tsuyoshi, who is trying to flee on his bicycle. "Mr. Kawabata," he yells, "please. I really need to talk to you." Running alongside the bike, Hashizaki desperately negotiates. "I told you, I'm busy today," Tsuyoshi protests. Hashizaki pleads, "We can talk while we move. I don't mind if it's only until you reach your destination." Tsuyoshi finally gives in. Panting, Hashizaki immediately starts his interrogation. "When did you start Tai Chi?" Tsuyoshi casually replies, "Since I was 5, I think." Hashizaki is shocked, thinking that this long history must be the source of his strength. He asks where he learned it, and Tsuyoshi explains he just learned at the park and took over as teacher when the last one left. This simple answer flies over Hashizaki's head. "I see." He thinks so that Tai Chi class is the secret to his strength. Hashizaki asks if the forms can be used in a fight. "Pretty much, yes," Tsuyoshi replies, but quickly tries to change the subject as they arrive at their destination. "We've almost arrived at our studio, so—" "Damn it," Hashizaki thinks, frustrated. He was so close to getting Tsuyoshi to open up about martial arts. He's caught completely off guard by the word studio. They arrive at a small building where 2 men are smoking on a bench. They greet Tsuyoshi, who introduces them as Mr. Jin and Mr. Taku. Hashizaki is confused by the sudden appearance of these strangers. One of the men, Taku, asks who the friend is. Hashizaki politely introduces himself. Taku and Jin say hello, explaining that they were about to do some sketching. Taku explains that they're just poor, struggling artists. He mentions that they used to be a group with Tsuyoshi, all trying to get into art school together. His friend tells him to knock it off. The revelation stuns Hashizaki. "You guys are artists?" "That's amazing." Taku casually invites him to come in and look around. Hashizaki is thrilled, seeing it as a chance to get closer to Kawabata, while Tsuyoshi looks on in disbelief. Inside the studio, Taku jokes that they'll perform better with an audience. Hashizaki realizes that this is where Tsuyoshi paints every day. As Taku suggests a subject to draw, Hashizaki eagerly asks if he can try drawing too. Taku is surprised by his enthusiasm. "You want to draw?" he asks. "Yes, I'd love to," Hashizaki replies. Seeing his chance for an escape, Tsuyoshi tries to put in his earbuds to tune them all out. The impromptu art session begins. Hashizaki sits at an easel, focused. Taku leans over and asks him how he's doing, getting a cool side glance in return. A moment later, everyone is shocked. Hashizaki has produced a stunningly realistic sketch of the bust. "That's amazing!" Taku yells. Even Tsuyoshi is bewildered, asking, "What's this? Why are you so good?" Hashizaki smiles sheepishly, explaining that he used to sketch a lot in university. Taku is flabbergasted. "You got into an art school?" All three of the aspiring artists, Taku, Tsuyoshi, and Jin, are completely blown away. Now, all eyes turn to the master himself. Taku and Jin ask Tsuyoshi how his drawing turned out. Tsuyoshi tries to hide his canvas, protesting that it's not done, but his friends eagerly crowd around him. They examine Tsuyoshi's work. It's an amateurish, oddly shaped mess. "I guess it's non-conformative?" Taku offers weakly. "Is it abstract art?" asks General Tsuyoshi insists it's a regular sketch. His friends don't hold back, telling him he's terrible at sketching and won't pass the entrance exam next year either. Hashizaki feels awkward, wondering if Tsuyoshi is mad at him. Tsuyoshi glumly admits he's trying to get into art school. Tsuyoshi suddenly launches into a passionate rant, saying he doesn't even like sketching. He complains that to get into art school, you have to prove your sketching skills, which he feels has nothing to do with being a true artist. Hashizaki is stunned by the outburst. Seeing Tsuyoshi so genuinely depressed and hunched over, Hashizaki feels a wave of sympathy. He tentatively speaks up, offering, "If you want, maybe I can help you get better at sketching." Hashizaki explains that sketching is a skill that can be learned by understanding the basics of space, shape, and gradient. Tsuyoshi's friends immediately jump on the opportunity, telling him this is his chance, and he should ask Hashizaki for help. With a kind smile, Hashizaki says that since he's being taught martial arts by Mr. Kawabata, he would be happy to help him out with sketching in return. Tsuyoshi is stunned by the offer from Mr. Hashizaki. In a complete role reversal, he bows his head deeply and asks, "Please teach me." Hashizaki agrees, and the two decide to work together. After their session, Hashizaki walks with Tsuyoshi, who mentions he has to head to his part-time job. They part ways on much friendlier terms, having struck an unexpected deal to teach each other. Hashizaki watches as Tsuyoshi heads for the low-sun convenience store. Before going in, Tsuyoshi turns back and sincerely apologizes for his earlier rude behavior, thanking Hashizaki for the offer to help. The genuine apology catches Hashizaki by surprise, and a smile begins to spread across his face as he realizes he may have finally made a connection. Beaming with excitement, Hashizaki enthusiastically thanks Tsuyoshi, saying that he is the one who should be grateful for this opportunity. They exchange friendly goodbyes, both smiling. Walking away, Hashizaki can't contain his joy. He pumps his fists in the air, celebrating this unexpected breakthrough. He reflects that while he never cared for art for the first time in his life, he's actually glad he went to art school because it led to this moment. Still celebrating his good fortune as he walks away from the store, Hashizaki is suddenly stopped in his tracks by a voice. He turns, shocked, to see Tsuyoshi's co-worker, Tsamaki, who remarks, "You've got tenacity, I'll give you that." While casually eating, Tsamaki reveals that many others have come before, asking Tsuyoshi to train them, but they all gave up quickly. She then looks at him and asks a shocking question. "Do you want to know about Tsuyoshi's secret?" Hashizaki can only stammer, "What did you say?" The chapter ends with a close-up on Tsamaki's face. Her expression is no longer that of a simple convenience store worker. It's sharp and serious. With a knowing look, she poses her own question to Hashizaki. "Who are you?" Continuing from the last chapter, the story introduces a mysterious girl with her hair tied in buns. She confidently introduces herself to a wary Hashizaki as Chin Shinmei. a Chinese exchange student. Chin then places her hand on Hashizaki's chest, adding that she's also a simple employee at the same store as Tsuyoshi, leaving Hashizaki utterly confused by her sudden appearance and familiarity. Suddenly, Hashizaki launches a fierce attack, but Chin effortlessly parries his blow, showing a glimpse of her martial arts skill. Hashizaki cries out in pain, clutching his chest where she struck him. Annoyed, Chin demands to know what's wrong with him, unfazed by his aggression. Undeterred, Hashizaki attacks again, but Chin once more calmly intercepts his punch with precision. The confrontation continues as she neutralizes another of his strikes. Her calm demeanor contrasts sharply with Hashizaki's pained and aggressive expression. A series of panels show the one-sided spar. Hashizaki attacks relentlessly, but Chin defends with fluid and minimal movements, highlighting her superior technique. With a shout, Chin lands a decisive blow. Hashizaki is thrown back, his expression a mix of shock and pain, as he can't comprehend her speed and power. Enraged and humiliated, Hashizaki grabs her by the wrist. She cries out in pain, but then stares him down, demanding to know what he's doing. With a smirk, Chin taunts him, stating that while he might be a good martial artist, his skills are nothing compared to Tsuyoshi's. Hashizaki is stunned into silence. Sensing his desperation for answers, Chin makes an offer. She'll tell him the secret to Kawabata's strength if he invites her for tea. Hashizaki immediately agrees, eager to learn anything he can. They arrive at an izakaya, a Japanese pub. Hashizaki looks on, annoyed, as Chin begins ordering a full meal, thinking to himself that he only agreed to get tea. As a waitress takes their order, Chin asks for a lemon sour. Hashizaki looks on as the table fills with food and drinks, far more than the simple tea he had envisioned. Chin lets out a sigh of satisfaction after a long drink, exclaiming how good it is after work. Hashizaki, impatient, finally asks who she really is, noting that her movements were very similar to Kawabata's. With a sly, confident smile, Chin reveals her true identity. She is not a simple student, but an intelligence agent from the Chinese Ministry of Martial Arts. Hashizaki is utterly shocked by the revelation. She explains that Tsuyoshi's strength is considered abnormal, having defeated many Chinese fighters, which is why her government is now interested in him. Hashizaki struggles to comprehend the scale of the situation. Still reeling, Hashizaki asks about the Chinese Ministry of Martial Arts and who Kawabata-san is. Chin calmly replies that she's still investigating and, for now, can only say so much. Chin explains that Tsuyoshi's strength is enough to attract the attention of an entire country. In the half year since she came to Japan, 192 people have challenged him, including herself. Hashizaki is flabbergasted by the sheer number of challengers. Hashizaki wonders what kind of life Tsuyoshi must lead, facing challengers constantly. Chin elaborates that there are almost no opponents who can win or even land a single hit on him. She then smirks, mentioning she found something very interesting while researching him. She shows him a flyer for a kickboxing gym, explaining that Tsuyoshi's parents apparently owned it. Hashizaki wonders if that's the secret to his strength, but Chin quickly shuts down the idea. Chin clarifies that the gym had already closed down by the time Tsuyoshi was 5 years old. Furthermore, she points out that his fighting style is not kickboxing at all. She tells him that from that point on, Tsuyoshi began to learn a certain martial art. Tai Chi. Hashizaki is stunned, exclaiming that he practices Tai Chi as well, but Chin clarifies that the class Tsuyoshi attends is different. A vision of Tsuyoshi's training appears. It's nothing more than basic morning exercise routines in a park with a group of elderly people 3 times a week. Hashizaki is speechless with disbelief. Incredulous, Hashizaki shouts that the idea of gaining such power from simple exercises is ridiculous. Chin calmly confirms that, as far as her intelligence suggests, this simple routine is indeed the only training Tsuyoshi does. Still struggling to accept it, Hashizaki asks how it's even possible to achieve that level of strength with so little effort. Chin thoughtfully explains that in China, Tai Chi is a traditional martial art known for its sophisticated techniques, but she admits she still doesn't have a definitive answer for Tsuyoshi's case. Hashizaki, sweating and overwhelmed, still can't grasp the situation. He presses Chin for an answer, asking again how Kawabata-san can be so strong with such simplistic training. Chin looks at him seriously and gives her only possible explanation. Tsuyoshi is a genius. Immediately after this profound statement, she casually orders more food, leaving Hashizaki stunned. Sometime later, Hashizaki is seen walking down the street, supporting a very drunk Chin who is complaining about having eaten too much meat. Leaning heavily on Hashizaki, a blushing Chin tells him that Tsuyoshi's strength is an incredible and important matter. With a sly look, she asks him what he thinks about them working together. Hashizaki asks what she's talking about. Hiccuping, she says she brought it up because she recognizes him as a capable fighter, and that if he wants to defeat Tsuyoshi, they must first uncover the secret of his strength. She leans in, her eyes gleaming with drunken determination, and plainly states their shared objective, to defeat him. Hashizaki is shocked by her directness. As he questions how they would do that, Chin reveals she has already requested support from her government, and that they should be arriving at the Losun convenience store right now. In the background, a black van pulls up. Inside the convenience store, the manager kindly tells Kavakan, also known as Tsuyoshi, that some people are waiting outside to see him. Seeing that the store is empty, he gives Tsuyoshi permission to go take a break. Tsuyoshi thanks his manager and steps outside the store, only to be met by a group of 4 imposing men waiting for him. A dramatic shot reveals the 4 challengers in all their glory. A muscular man with a ponytail, a portly man, an energetic youth in a cap, and a stylish man in sunglasses. Watching from a distance, Chin explains to a confused Hashizaki that these men are the elite of Chinese martial arts, whom she personally selected. They are known as the 4 Fists. Chin boasts that despite their different styles, it's no exaggeration to say they are the strongest in China, and she believes that not even Tsuyoshi can defeat them. The members of the 4 Fists observe Tsuyoshi. The first is Lu Sheng, the Lion of the North of Shaolin Kung Fu, who comments that Tsuyoshi looks very weak. The second is Wan Yundiao, the Steel King of Hung Jie, who is less quick to judge. The third member, Yen Lulan, the Rakshasa Zen of Taijiquan, smiles and says he can tell Tsuyoshi's nature just by looking. The fourth, Lu Jifei, the Rose of Destruction of Bajiquan, scolds the others for their rude comments. Lu Jifei steps forward, politely apologizing for the rude introduction, and makes their request clear. Could you fight with us? Tsuyoshi, calm as ever, says he doesn't care, but he has some conditions. Tsuyoshi states his terms. There will be only one fight, with no rematch, and it must be in a discreet place. His final, most important condition. If they lose, they must promise to never tell anyone about him. The scene shifts, beginning the next chapter of the story. Hashizaki is still supporting the drunken Chin near a park. She looks at her phone, complaining that the 4 Fists are late and haven't contacted her. Meanwhile, in that very park, Tsuyoshi stands before the 4 martial artists. Lu Jifei removes his sunglasses, stating that they haven't properly introduced themselves yet. Each of the 4 men introduces himself by name. The stylish Lu Jifei, the smiling Yen Lulan, the powerful Wan Yundiao, and the youthful Lu Sheng. After they introduce themselves as enjoyers of Chinese martial arts, Tsuyoshi simply repeats that it will be just one fight. He warns them to take it seriously, so they don't have any regrets. The hot-headed Lu Sheng gets angry, feeling that Tsuyoshi is underestimating them. Yen Lulan finds it interesting, while Lu Jifei dismisses it as a simple provocation. Wan Yundiao states coldly that their purpose is to defeat him anyway. The group discusses who will go first. Lu Sheng volunteers, arrogantly proclaiming that 3 minutes should be more than enough to defeat someone like Tsuyoshi, allowing them to finish quickly and enjoy their free vacation. Tsuyoshi casually remarks that it's okay if all 4 of them want to fight at the same time. Lu Jifei warns his comrades not to fall for the obvious provocation, as the others eagerly express their desire to fight. Provoked by Tsuyoshi's impatience, the hot-headed Lu Sheng can no longer contain his anger. With a yell, he breaks ranks and charges headfirst towards his unflappable opponent. The fight begins explosively as Lu Sheng launches himself into the air, delivering a powerful high kick aimed directly at Tsuyoshi's head. As the other masters look on, Tsuyoshi simply turns his head, his expression as placid as ever. Lu Sheng gets into his fighting stance, confidently telling Tsuyoshi that it will only take him 1 minute to rip his head off. As Lu Sheng rushes forward, Yin Lulan comments that it will be difficult for Tsuyoshi to deal with Lu's kung fu. Tsuyoshi, however, remains completely stoic. In a flash, Tsuyoshi effortlessly dodges Lu Sheng's flurry of kicks. Thrown off balance by his own momentum, Lu stumbles and goes sprawling to the ground. Tsuyoshi, now somehow behind him, grabs him by the collar and lifts him up, calmly stating that it seems he has nowhere to run. The other fighters are shocked, thinking Tsuyoshi landed a hit. But Lu Sheng is even more stunned, realizing Tsuyoshi simply parried his attack with minimal effort, completely neutralizing it. Lu Zhifei steps in, telling an embarrassed Lu Sheng that's enough. Lu furiously protests that he's just getting started. Lu Sheng frantically complains that it hasn't even been a minute, but Lu Zhifei sternly tells him to shut up. All the while, Tsuyoshi watches the argument in silence. Lu Zhifei then turns his attention to Tsuyoshi, adjusting his sunglasses. He declares that his style, Bajiquan, is not the same as the one Lu used, implying a different level of skill. Tsuyoshi simply replies, "I get it." The two face each other in the park as Lu Zhifei takes his fighting stance. With a powerful shout, Lu Zhifei lunges forward, throwing a forceful punch characteristic of the explosive Bajiquan style, kicking up dust from the ground. Tsuyoshi dodges the initial punch, and then a powerful stomp that cracks the ground. Lu Zhifei remains poised for his next move. Lu Zhifei continues his assault, but Tsuyoshi effortlessly deflects the blow with a simple, almost lazy block. Lu Zhifei looks down in disbelief. Despite the power of his attack, he sees that he only managed to make Tsuyoshi shuffle his feet slightly in the dirt. Lu Zhifei questions how his attack only moved his opponent a little. A smirk crosses his face as he says, "Not bad," acknowledging Tsuyoshi's resilience. Before Lu Zhifei can continue, the towering figure of one Yundiao steps forward, his massive frame casting a shadow over his comrade. Impatient and aggressive, Wan Yundiao declares that Lu Zhifei's time is up. He roughly shoves him aside, eager for his own turn. Wan Yundiao unleashes a devastating punch. The blow sends Lu Zhifei flying and appears to connect with Tsuyoshi, who is knocked backward. As Lu Zhifei yells at Wan Yundiao for interrupting, Lu Sheng comments on his insane strength, noting the jungle gym behind Tsuyoshi is now heavily dented. In the midst of the chaos, Tsuyoshi is seen casually slapping Wan Yundiao's arm away. Ignoring Lu Zhifei's complaints, Wan Yundiao's eyes are locked onto Tsuyoshi. He readies himself for another, more direct attack. Wan Yundiao throws a powerful, straight punch. Tsuyoshi meets the mighty blow with a gentle, open palm touch. To everyone's astonishment, Wan Yundiao is violently thrown backward, as if hit by his own reflected force. Tsuyoshi calmly crosses his arms, completely unfazed, as Wan Yundiao stumbles back toward the jungle gym he had previously dented. The other three fighters look on in absolute shock. Wan Yundiao stares at his fist in disbelief, wondering what just happened, and asking if Tsuyoshi somehow returned his own Hung Jie attack back at him. Yin Lulan, the Taijiquan master, finally steps in. He identifies Tsuyoshi's technique as Huajin, an energy neutralization technique, and notes his Nigong, or internal energy, is well developed. Condescendingly, he deems it superficial and offers to teach Tsuyoshi the real Tai Chi. As his comrades watch, Yin Lulan takes a relaxed stance, casually blowing a puff of air or dust from his fingertips, signaling his readiness to engage. Yin Lulan adopts a formal martial arts stance, a serious expression on his face. He now faces Tsuyoshi, who stands waiting, his aura of calm undisturbed. Qin Shanmei finally arrives at the park, with Hashizaki supporting her. She complains that she isn't that heavy when he refuses to carry her. Seeing the standoff, she confronts the Four Fists. With a furious expression, Chin screams at her compatriots, asking them what the hell they are doing. Everyone, including Tsuyoshi, is taken aback by her sudden, angry outburst. Chin scolds the Four Fists, saying they should not have acted without her, and reminding them she told them to contact her upon arrival. They try to explain they just ran into him, then sheepishly turn and apologize to Tsuyoshi. Trying to smooth things over, Chin tells Tsuyoshi that these are her friends from China who just have a bad habit of fighting strangers. But Tsuyoshi ignores her, turning to Hashizaki and asking pointedly, "Why were you with Chin-san?" Hashizaki stammers, trying to explain how they met, but Tsuyoshi cuts him off. Stating that he's still on his work break, he turns to leave, leaving a confused Hashizaki calling after him. With his back turned, Tsuyoshi asks to be left alone for a moment. Hashizaki is stunned into silence by the cold request, sensing something is deeply wrong. Hashizaki watches Tsuyoshi walk away and is shocked to see tears streaming down his face, his expression filled with anguish. Crying, Hashizaki thinks in disbelief. The next day, Hashizaki arrives at an art studio, ringing the doorbell. He checks his phone, which has a reminder to help Kobata-san with the drawing, and wonders if he's early since Tsuyoshi hasn't arrived yet. While sitting on a bench and having a drink, Hashizaki recalls the previous day's events, replaying Tsuyoshi's pained request to be left alone and the image of him crying. He continues to ponder Tsuyoshi's strange question about Chin-san, wondering what it all meant. A new chapter begins, titled The Strongest Anguish. Just then, Tsuyoshi arrives on his bicycle, cheerfully apologizing for being late. He smiles genuinely, thanking Hashizaki for coming and saying it's not a big deal. Hashizaki is relieved, thinking to himself that Tsuyoshi seems to be okay after all. Tsuyoshi opens the door to the studio and happily invites him to come in. Inside the cluttered art studio, Tsuyoshi suggests they can use one of the many objects on the shelves, like an animal skull, as a motif for their drawing practice. Hashizaki readily agrees. Hashizaki chooses a taxidermy duck, and they agree to start by drawing it to practice different textures. They both sit down at their easels, ready to begin. Despite trying to focus, Hashizaki is visibly agitated. He fidgets, drinks from his can, and can't sit still. Internally, he screams that he can't take it anymore, as he's too worried about Tsuyoshi. Hashizaki internally debates with himself. He can't just suddenly ask, "Why did you cry yesterday?" He wonders if it's his fault or if it was because of the Chinese fighters, dismissing both ideas as unlikely. Lost in his worried thoughts, Hashizaki makes a strange noise. Tsuyoshi looks over, asking what's going on. Flustered, Hashizaki panics and blurts out encouragement, giving a thumbs up and saying, "You're doing great." While they're drawing, Hashizaki's phone buzzes. It's a new message from Chin Shinmei. He glances at it while Tsuyoshi continues to receive drawing advice. Hashizaki's phone won't stop buzzing with notifications. He tries to ignore it and continue teaching Tsuyoshi about perspective and drawing. Tsuyoshi notices the constant buzzing and asks if something happened regarding Chin-san. Hashizaki is shocked, asking how he knew. Tsuyoshi simply replies that he heard them talking yesterday. Hashizaki stammers, but Tsuyoshi interrupts, revealing the shocking truth. He knows about Chin-san being a Chinese government agent. Hashizaki is left speechless. As Hashizaki panics, Tsuyoshi explains that while he didn't understand what the drunk Chin was saying, it seemed weird. He then adds with a sad self-deprecation that he should have realized it was a ruse, because there's no way a girl would be genuinely interested in him. Tsuyoshi begins to explain. He tells Hashizaki that, in fact, whenever he went out with Chin-san, she would conveniently disappear, and then strangers would appear looking for a fight. He recounts a specific incident where he went to the bathroom, and when he came back, he found two men knocked out on the ground with Chin apologizing for their behavior. Hashizaki listens, stunned. Tsuyoshi continues, saying that even the previous day with the Chinese fighters, Chin claimed they were friends, which was obviously a complete lie. He sighs, having figured out her whole scheme. Hashizaki is shocked that Tsuyoshi understood everything, including that Chin had led him there. Tsuyoshi continues to muse on why he was ever interested in someone like Chin. Hashizaki, completely misreading the situation, blurts out, "Huh, did you like her?" Tsuyoshi confirms it, explaining that it was all a farce. The matching work shifts, the encouraging messages. It was all a lie. Hashizaki realizes that this betrayal is why Tsuyoshi was crying. Tsuyoshi says he truly hates that kind of manipulation. Overwhelmed by his emotions, Tsuyoshi buries his head in his arms and exclaims, "I want to die." Hashizaki, in a panic, rushes to his side, asking what's wrong. While sketching intensely, Tsuyoshi finally unloads his burden. He explains that for a long time, he has been constantly dragged into fights with strangers who challenge him without any warning. He continues that more and more people keep coming to challenge him. Because they all approach him with hostility, he has only been able to trust a very small number of people. Hashizaki listens, his expression filled with concern and dawning understanding. Tsuyoshi then turns to Hashizaki and says he has an apology to make. He confesses, "Because I'm not a fighter. I just want to be an artist." With tears in his eyes and a broken, almost crazed smile, Tsuyoshi looks at Hashizaki and asks the devastating question, "So, could you tell me why I have to fight?" Hashizaki is left completely speechless. In that moment, everything clicks for Hashizaki. He finally understands. Tsuyoshi doesn't want to fight. He has been forced to face challengers day after day, all alone, simply because he is strong. A fire of determination ignites in Hashizaki. He clenches his fist, realizing Tsuyoshi is not the kind of person who should be forced into this life. He makes a bold decision and asks, "Could you fight with me?" A flashback shows Hashizaki's resolve. He had chased Tsuyoshi down, begging to talk to him, and then bowed deeply before him at his workplace, pleading, "Please, make me your disciple." Back in the present, Hashizaki stands in shocked silence, realizing the weight of the commitment he has just made. He thinks to himself, "What have I done?" while Tsuyoshi looks on, confused. Trying to break the awkward silence, Tsuyoshi returns to their drawing lesson, asking Hashizaki for his opinion on a technique. Hashizaki is still dazed, only managing a simple, "Huh?" Later that day, they part ways. Tsuyoshi sincerely thanks Hashizaki for his help and apologizes for making him listen to all his complaints. Hashizaki reassures him it was nothing and offers to be there if he ever needs to talk. Just as Hashizaki is heading home, his phone rings. It's an incoming call from Chin Shinmei. He answers, clearly annoyed. Chin asks him to come to the Caesarea restaurant near the station, saying there's something she wants to talk about. He spots her waving from inside the restaurant. Hashizaki enters the restaurant and finds Chin sitting with the 4 defeated martial artists. They look up at him as he arrives, and Yin Lulan says, "We have been waiting for you." Hashizaki demands to know why he was called. With a confident smirk, Chin gets straight to the point. "I want these guys to fight with Tsuyoshi." Chin explains they want his help because he's the only fighter Tsuyoshi has accepted. However, Hashizaki flatly refuses. He declares that he is now Kawabata-san's partner and cannot work with them. Chin is stunned by his defiance. With a fierce, determined grin, Hashizaki lays down the gauntlet, concluding the chapter with a powerful declaration. "If you want to fight him, first you will have to fight me." In a Chinese restaurant, a group of martial artists are confronted by a man with spiky black hair. He declares that to fight him, they must go through him first. The group, consisting of a man with sunglasses, a muscular man with a ponytail, and a young woman with her hair in buns, is taken aback by his sudden challenge. A hot-headed young man in a white cap from the group gets enraged by the challenge. He grabs the spiky-haired man by his shirt, yelling and questioning if he's being played with, while the challenger remains eerily calm. Before the delinquent can do anything else, the spiky-haired man strikes with lightning speed, delivering a powerful blow to his torso. The other members of the group watch in shock, not even registering the attack until it has already landed. The force of the single punch sends a man in the cap flying backwards, knocked out cold before he even hits the ground. He lands hard on the table, face first and bleeding, scattering food everywhere. The remaining members of his group stare in stunned silence at the swift and brutal takedown. As the chaos unfolds and other patrons realize a fight has broken out, the spiky-haired man smirks, remarking that this group, the so-called Four Fists, doesn't seem to be a big deal after all. He unwraps the bandages on his arm, coolly stating, "Well, only 3 left." Below, the man with sunglasses reflects his determined gaze, realizing the gravity of the situation. Suddenly, a glass is thrown from off-panel, and the spiky-haired man instinctively shatters it with a powerful block before it can hit him. The attack came from the muscular man with the ponytail, Wan Yundiao, who used a table as a springboard to launch himself into a flying kick. The spiky-haired man grits his teeth as the powerful blow lands, sending him stumbling back and crashing into a table. Wan Yundiao looms over his downed opponent, his boot raised to stomp on him as the restaurant staff begs him to stop. The spiky-haired man looks up, surprised by the ferocity of the attack. As Wan Yundiao brings his belt down like a whip for another strike, the spiky-haired man's eyes widen in alarm. But before the belt can connect, the stout man in the beret, who had been eating peacefully, catches Wan Yundiao's foot and stops the challenger's arm with his other hand, effortlessly neutralizing the attacks. Both Wan Yundiao and the spiky-haired man are stunned by the intervention. The stout man looks down with disdain and tells them to stop, complaining that they are making the food taste bad. The woman with the hair buns, Aino-suk, stands up and clinks her cup to get everyone's attention, silencing the tense standoff between her companions and the challenger. Aino-suk calmly proposes a deal to the challenger. She agrees to his demand for a fight, but in exchange, if he loses, he will have to cooperate with their group. Her determined gaze shows she means business. The spiky-haired man, Hashizaki, grins with confident excitement, accepting the terms of the deal without hesitation. With the agreement made, Aino-suk's group allows Hashizaki to leave. He pays his bill while they give him instructions to prepare for their arranged fight. They watch as he walks out the door alone. As soon as Hashizaki is gone, the man in the cap, Liu, wakes up and flies into a rage, screaming that he'll kill him. Wan Yundiao holds him back, noting that he was caught off guard. Outside the restaurant, Hashizaki stands alone, reflecting on the earlier confrontation. He recalls how the stout man effortlessly stopped Wan Yundiao's attack, realizing that if he hadn't, the situation could have been much worse. Hashizaki clenches his fist in frustration, admitting to himself that he doesn't know anyone on their level. He questions if it's even possible for him to win this fight alone, feeling the immense pressure of the challenge ahead. Suddenly, a thought strikes him. He has a realization, an idea of someone who might be able to help him. He looks up from his phone with a start before looking at a nearby apartment building. The scene shifts to a cluttered apartment where Hashizaki has arrived to ask for a favor. He finds a heavy-set, two-tone-haired man named Thru, who is absorbed in his computer and immediately tells him to go home. Hashizaki desperately begs Teru for help, but Teru dismisses him, saying he's busy. Teru's annoyance quickly turns to rage as Hashizaki persists, and he finally snaps, yelling to know what he wants and threatening to kill him if it's nonsense. With a look of sheer desperation, Hashizaki yells out his urgent request. "I want you to help me fight some Chinese martial artists." Teru immediately refuses and tells him to go home. As Hashizaki tries to plead his case further, a loud crash echoes through the room. A hole has been punched in the wall, not by Hashizaki, but from an outside force, finally catching Teru's attention as they both turn to the source of the noise. Instead of Hashizaki punching a hole in the wall, it's revealed that someone has kicked the front door in from the outside, shattering it completely. Teru and Hashizaki look on in shock from inside the messy apartment. Standing in the ruined doorway is Liu, the man in the cap from the restaurant, his face obscured by a mask. Hashizaki realizes with dread that the Chinese martial artists have already found them. Liu, still furious from his earlier defeat, screams that it's time to finish things. He lunges at Hashizaki, yelling that he came to kill him, while Teru looks on in confusion. Hashizaki dodges the attack, causing Liu to stumble and trip. In his clumsiness, Lu crashes into Teru's desk, smashing his PC monitor. This act of destruction immediately draws Teru's enraged attention. As Teru screams for them to stop, Lu continues his rampage, grabbing a bottle from a shelf and threatening to attack. Hashizaki tries to fend him off, but the chaos escalates as more of Teru's belongings are destroyed. The destruction of his personal sanctuary pushes Teru over the edge. He lets out a primal scream of pure rage, silencing both Hashizaki and Lu, who are still tangled up in the mess. Teru, now seething, orders them to take the fight outside. His anger is not directed at Hashizaki being attacked, but at the intruders who violated his home. Lu, still holding Hashizaki, casually insults Teru, calling him a fat ass. The insult hits a nerve. Teru's expression darkens as he stares at Lu with murderous intent, coldly promising to kill him once they are outside. As the confrontation marks the beginning of a death match, Teru repeats his demand to go outside so he can kill Lu. Lu, however, scoffs at him, claiming he's busy dealing with Hashizaki. Teru's patience finally snaps. He erupts, screaming at Lu to shut up and get out of his house immediately. The scene shifts to an open area outside. A menacing aura surrounds Teru as he glares at Lu, who seems unnerved by the sudden change in the atmosphere. Lu tries to maintain his bravado, insulting Teru again and claiming he'll be done in 5 seconds. But Teru ominously states he must teach the little shit some manners first. In the background, Hashizaki apologizes to Teru, admitting this wasn't supposed to happen. Hashizaki warns Teru to be careful, as Lu is a Chinese martial artist. But Teru, consumed by rage, screams that he doesn't care and blames Hashizaki for everything, yelling that he can't just pay for the damages and expect it to be fine after his house was invaded and ruined. Lu taunts Teru again, telling the fat ass to stop wasting his time. Hashizaki can only look on and apologize, knowing he's responsible for unleashing Teru's wrath. Lu makes the first move, launching a powerful kick aimed at Teru's head. However, Teru effortlessly blocks it with his hand, much to Lu's surprise. Lu follows up with a rapid barrage of punches, but Teru, despite his large frame, is surprisingly agile. He dodges and weaves through the attacks with ease. Lu is bewildered by Teru's speed, questioning how a fat guy can move so fast. Watching from the side, Hashizaki reveals the truth. Although he looks different now, Teru is a former karate champion, which is why he can't be defeated easily. The fight intensifies. A close-up shows Lu's shocked face, a fist making impact, and Teru's foot planting firmly, indicating a powerful stance. Both fighters are breathing heavily. Lu, panting, stands opposite a wheezing Teru, the initial burst of action having taken a toll on both of them. Lu complains that he feels like he's dying, while Hashizaki watches in stunned silence. Suddenly, Lu's expression changes to one of pure rage as he screams, "Fat ass!" once more. Enraged by the insult, Teru stomps his foot and Lu charges forward, landing a clean punch to Teru's face. Lu follows up with a kick to the gut, shouting, "Aura!" Despite taking the hits, Teru remains standing. Hashizaki calls out his name in alarm as Teru asks Lu, "I am, you fat bitch." Lu, not backing down, screams, "Don't underestimate me," and winds up for another powerful blow. Hashizaki watches in horror as Lu prepares to strike again. Teru stands dazed, his head thrown back and mouth agape from the force of the previous blows. As Lu's fist flies toward Teru's face, the scene flashes back to a memory. A young boy, presumably Lu, is being dragged away by a monk at a temple, screaming for him to let go. He declares he's had enough and is leaving. The flashback continues, revealing the source of Lu's trauma. A monk tells a young, tearful Lu that he is a dark child, born against China's one-child policy with no legal identity. He is told that Kung Fu is his father and the temple his only home, as he has nowhere else to go. The flashback continues, showing scenes of Lu's harsh life. He is constantly beaten by the other monks, who call him arrogant. This abuse is juxtaposed with the present, where he channels all that rage into his punch, screaming "die" as he attacks Teru. In the past, Lu is shown being punished and locked behind bars for trying to escape. A monk tells him to reflect on his actions, but all Lu feels is hatred for the place and the people who trap him there, fueling his desperate attempts to flee. Sitting alone in isolation, a bruised and determined young Lu makes a solemn vow. He swears that one day he will become the strongest person there, forcing everyone to finally acknowledge his existence. This burning ambition is channeled into his present-day scream of "die." The flashback ends, and Lu's punch, imbued with all his life's rage and frustration, connects solidly with Teru's gut. The impact is shown with a bright flash, indicating its immense power. Teru grunts in pain, his eyes wide with shock as he stumbles back a step from the force of the blow. Hashizaki watches, horrified, as Teru takes the full force of the attack. Wiping his mouth, Teru admits that the punch hurt, surprised that a kid could hit so hard. Lu, enraged that it wasn't a knockout blow, dares him to try and land a better hit himself. Lu's rage boils over, and he screams at Teru to "come on, hit me." He declares that he won't even try to dodge the attack, challenging Teru to do his worst. Teru smirks, accepting the challenge. With a menacing look, he winds up and unleashes a devastating punch that slams directly into Lu's face, who had foolishly stood still, yelling, "Don't underestimate me." The sheer force of Teru's punch sends Lu flying, his head snapping back. Hashizaki can only watch in utter shock as Lu is completely overpowered. Teru looks on with a cold, unimpressed expression. Despite the brutal hit, Lu manages to stay on his feet. He slowly approaches Teru and gives him a light poke on the stomach. Teru is shocked as he feels a sharp, piercing pain from the seemingly gentle poke. Lu's finger sinks deep into his flesh, indicating an incredibly focused and powerful technique. With a deranged grin, Lu mocks Teru, saying, "It seems it was you who underestimated me." Teru stumbles back and falls to his knees, clutching his stomach in agony from the single precise strike. Hashizaki shouts his name in alarm as Lu stands over him, gloating. The chapter shifts to madness. Teru remains on the ground, a trickle of blood dripping from his hand where he clutches the wound on his stomach. Hashizaki again yells Teru's name, concerned. Teru looks up, sweating and grimacing in pain, while Lu stands before him, radiating an aura of victory. Lu's victory is short-lived as his mind snaps. His face becomes a mask of pure, murderous intent as he declares, "I will kill." His trauma consumes him. He flashes back to being abandoned as a baby by his parents, the memory fueling his rage and sorrow. In the distance, the temple where he was raised stands like a prison. He remembers the tormentors from the Shaolin Temple, the smiling faces of the other boys who beat him, and the old monk who enforced the brutal principles. His desire for revenge becomes an all-consuming fire. In his madness, Lu screams that he will kill anyone and everyone who has ever wronged him. His madness climaxes as he vows to kill them all, including Teru. A vision shows him standing victoriously over the bodies of all the monks who tormented him, his back covered in scars from years of abuse. Returning to the present, Lu, lost in his rage, holds up a bloodied thumb in a thumbs-down gesture. He tells Teru he will let him live, but only if he begs for his life. Hashizaki stares in horror at Lu's thumb, which is gruesomely bruised and discolored. Teru, still on the ground, looks up, confused and wary of what's happening. Hashizaki wonders what kind of insane training Lu must have gone through to sustain such an injury. He knows that simple fractures from punching rocks wouldn't cause that kind of damage to the entire thumb. Hashizaki tries to intervene, yelling at Teru not to fight anymore and that he needs medical treatment. But Teru, ignoring him, suddenly sucker punches Hashizaki, sending him flying. Hashizaki clutches his face in pain, stunned by the unexpected blow. Teru rises to his feet, telling him to get off and declaring his intention to kill Lu himself. Lu, still caught in his madness, just responds with, "Ah, what did you say, fat ass?" Enraged by the insult, Teru stomps forward and unleashes a powerful overhand punch, yelling "fucking brat." The blow connects squarely with Lu's side. Lu stumbles, but doesn't fall, grunting from the impact. He seems more shocked than hurt that Teru is still fighting so fiercely. Lu retaliates with a spinning kick. As he strikes, Hashizaki notices the ugly, dark wound on Teru's stomach from Lu's earlier finger poke attack. Teru grimaces, clutching his wounded stomach as Lu presses his advantage, seeing that his opponent is injured. Lu unleashes a furious barrage of rapid-fire punches, forcing Teru to block desperately. The impacts are fast and heavy, keeping Teru on the defensive. Despite the onslaught, Teru thinks to himself, admitting that Lu is certainly strong and his attacks are fast and heavy. He also acknowledges he's already taken a lot of damage. He wonders, so why? The question echoes in his mind as he continues to endure the beating. Why am I not afraid of his attacks? The reason flashes in his mind, a memory of another man. An unassuming man with glasses and a striped shirt, the one who truly terrified him. With this memory resurfacing, Teru's demeanor changes. He begins to effortlessly dodge Lu's attacks. Hashizaki watches in disbelief, wondering how Teru suddenly started evading every hit. Teru's mind is locked on that fateful day. He can't forget his humiliating defeat, where he was forced to his knees, begging his opponent to stop, surrendering completely. Fueled by this traumatic memory, Teru's power awakens. He easily slaps aside Lu's next attack, his movements now faster and more precise. Lu throws a punch, but Teru vanishes from his sight. Hashizaki is stunned, questioning if he just disappeared. Teru has moved so fast he's become a blur. Teru reappears behind Lu, poise a strike. Lu turns, his face a mask of shock and confusion, unable to comprehend his opponent's speed. Teru lands a powerful blow to Lu's midsection, shouting "say." The impact is immense, lifting Lu off his feet. Lu stumbles backward, gasping for air, completely stunned. Hashizaki realizes with astonishment that Teru was actually faster than Lu. Teru exhales, having fully turned the tables. In his mind, Teru sees the man in the striped shirt again. He thinks to himself that no matter how strong Lu is, he's still not on that guy's level. Lu, sweating and desperate, screams that it's impossible, that it must have been a coincidence. But Teru, now calm and smiling slightly, states that he's finally getting used to the pace of the fight. With a confident smirk, Teru beckons Lu forward. He declares that he will now show him the second strongest fist in Japan, a clear testament to the power of the man who defeated him. The final phase of the battle begins, titled Scream. Lu and Teru face off, both battered but ready for the decisive end. Lu charges in, screaming, but Teru easily blocks his punch with an open palm, his superior skill now on full display. As Lu continues his desperate, screaming assault, Hashizaki watches in awe. Teru is now effortlessly dodging and weaving around every attack. Teru grabs Lu's attacking arm and uses his momentum to spin him around, delivering a powerful blow to his back. Lu is completely helpless against Teru's fluid movements. The fight concludes with a final, devastating kick from Teru that sends Lu flying, ending the match decisively. As Lu lies defeated, Hashizaki notices that his shoe has come off from the force of the final blow. He observes that Lu's movements suddenly changed at the end, likely a last-ditch effort that failed spectacularly. Refusing to accept the overwhelming difference in power, Lu musters his remaining strength for one last, desperate charge, screaming "bastard." Teru, however, watches him approach with a look of calm indifference, prepared for the final exchange. Hashizaki is in disbelief. He notes that despite his size, Teru's movements are incredibly fast, but he questions if Teru was always this quick, sensing a sudden shift in his abilities. Lu throws a desperate punch, but Teru is now in a completely different league, easily deflecting the blow. Teru lands another crushing punch, sending Lu sprawling to the ground, defeated. Lu screams in agony, spitting blood as the force of the final blow courses through him. His eyes are wide with the pain and shock of his defeat. Hashizaki winces, commenting on how much that must have hurt as Lu received the hit directly. Lu's shoe lies on the ground, a testament to the power of the strike that knocked him out of it. But Lu isn't done yet. Fueled by his madness and desperation, he lets out a guttural roar and gets back to his feet, his eyes wide with crazed determination. Hashizaki is shocked that Lu can still stand. Lu lunges forward and lands a wild punch on Teru's face, refusing to give up. Teru grunts from the impact, but remains standing. He looks down at a crouching Lu, both of them exhausted but still in the fight, surprising even themselves. Lu, from his low stance, launches an upward kick that connects with Teru's chin, snapping his head back. Hashizaki is amazed that Lu could attack from such a position. Teru reels from the blow, his eyes rolling back in his head as he is momentarily stunned. Hashizaki watches the brutal exchange, noting that Lu seems completely unfazed by Teru's powerful punches. He wonders why Lu is so obsessed with winning, to the point of enduring this much punishment. Teru grunts in pain, and both he and Lu sway on their feet, completely exhausted and barely able to stand. The two opponents trade blows again, their movements sluggish but still filled with killing intent. Hashizaki realizes they are both at their absolute limits and cannot continue. With a final, simultaneous scream of exertion, they both wind up for one last punch, putting every remaining ounce of their strength into it. They trade one final, brutal punch to the face at the exact same time, the impact echoing through the empty space. Hashizaki screams out Teru's name as both fighters connect with the final, desperate blows. The force of the mutual knockout is too much. Both fighters collapse to the ground, the long and brutal battle finally over. Hashizaki rushes to their sides, calling out to see if they're okay. Teru, lying on the ground, compliments Lu, admitting through breath that he is pretty good. Lu weakly returns the sentiment. A moment of mutual respect passes between the two warriors. Teru asks for Lu's name and promises to remember it. The fight has forged an unlikely bond. Teru extends his hand, acknowledging that it was a good fight. Lu, surprised at first, accepts the handshake, a small smile on his bruised face. Teru asks Lu if he's okay. Lu admits he thinks he has some broken bones and needs to go to the hospital. Teru jokes that he's fine thanks to his layer of fat, but Hashizaki notes the wound on his stomach still looks very bad. As they get into a taxi to go to the hospital, Lu asks to sit in the front. Hashizaki, resigned, decides to take the back seat. As Hashizaki prepares to get in the back, he sees Teru and Lu sitting in the front and is confused for a moment. Suddenly, Teru's friendly demeanor vanishes. His face contorts with rage as he glares at Lu, remembering the damage to his apartment. He screams that he will not forgive the motherfucker, while Lu flips him off from the front seat. Hashizaki tries to remind Teru that they are allies now, but Teru ignores him, still fuming. The taxi drives off, leaving Hashizaki standing alone on the street, watching his new, chaotic team depart. The next day at the low-sun convenience store, Shin-Shame watches her co-worker, Tsuyoshi, with a heavy heart. She calls out his name, but he walks past with only a cursory thanks, avoiding her gaze entirely. Shin lets out a frustrated sigh, clearly troubled by his cold shoulder. Trying to break the ice, Shin cheerfully calls out to Tsuyoshi as he stocks shelves. She suggests they go for tea after their shift, but her friendly invitation is met with a look of pure confusion from the bespectacled young man. Tsuyoshi's expression hardens, and he sharply rebuffs her offer, asking her to stop playing games with him. Shin is completely taken aback, her cheerful demeanor shattering into a wide-eyed look of shock. Later, in the break room, Shin finds Tsuyoshi engrossed in drawing. Worried, she asks if he's feeling unwell. As she gets closer, she sees he's redrawing an advertisement and compliments his artwork, trying to reconnect with him. Her kind words have the opposite effect. To Shin's horror, Tsuyoshi explodes in frustration, shouting at her to leave him alone. The scene shifts to a high-rise apartment where a man with spiky hair is in the middle of a workout. His routine is interrupted by the sound of the doorbell, and he looks up, surprised by the unexpected visitor. He answers the video intercom and finds a distraught-looking Chin Shanmei at his door. She appears flustered and anxious, holding a bag and looking up at the camera with desperation in her eyes. Now, inside the apartment, Chin sits across from the man, Hashizaki. He cuts straight to the point, asking how she found his address and stating that he has a big problem, all while a slice of cake sits untouched between them. Chin looks down, her voice filled with worry as she confesses her own problem. Tsuyoshi doesn't want to talk to me. Hashizaki reacts with a bewildered, huh, clearly not understanding the gravity of the situation. Holding her teacup, Chin begins to explain everything. She reveals her true identity as an agent for the Chinese Ministry of Martial Arts and recounts her various attempts to get close to Tsuyoshi as part of her mission. Hashizaki guesses that Tsuyoshi must have discovered she was an agent, but Chin, in denial, insists it's impossible because she was so careful. She desperately asks if something else might have happened to him. Hashizaki bluntly reminds her of the truth. He reveals that she got drunk and loudly announced her secret identity not only to Tsuyoshi, but to a group of Chinese people she had brought with her. Chin is speechless as the memory starts to surface. The full memory of that disastrous day comes flooding back. Chin throws her head back in anguish, realizing she's ruined everything and finally understanding why she had no memory of the event. Hashizaki can only sigh, remarking on the terrible consequences of drinking. Hashizaki then drops another bombshell. Kawabata-san, Tsuyoshi liked her. Chin is completely stunned by the revelation, suddenly understanding that his strange behavior was a result of her drunken confession, not dislike. Overwhelmed with guilt, Chin buries her face in her hands, feeling terrible for what she's done to Tsuyoshi. Seeing his chance, Hashizaki changes the subject, asking her to tell him more about the mysterious Chinese Ministry of Martial Arts. Hashizaki is surprised she's asking him about it, but Chin explains that it's a public institution regulating martial arts in China. She then pulls out her phone to show him something, prompting him to ask why she's in Japan in the first place. On her phone, she shows him a video of a supposed Chinese martial arts master being instantly defeated by an MMA fighter. The comments section is filled with mockery, with users calling kung fu trash and praising MMA, illustrating the problem she's facing. Chin explains with grave seriousness that Chinese martial arts have become a joke to the world. That's why the government sent agents like her to find world-class fighters, to restore the nation's honor before its martial traditions disappear completely. The pieces click into place for Hashizaki. He understands now that her mission is to scout Tsuyoshi because of his proficiency in Tai Chi, a fact which Chin confirms. Suddenly, Chin's frustration boils over. She slams her hands on the table, spilling Hashizaki's drink, and passionately demands to know if he doesn't feel frustrated when a tradition is insulted by strangers online. Hashizaki is stunned into silence by her outburst. In her emotional frenzy, she slaps the shocked Hashizaki across the face, calling him stupid. Both are left momentarily stunned by her impulsive act of violence. Hashizaki remains silent, bewildered. Chin, still fuming, tries to justify her anger by claiming it's a personal matter, arguing that he would feel the same way if it were karate being insulted instead of Chinese martial arts. She gets up and continues her passionate defense, insisting that traditional martial arts are strong despite recent losses. She dismisses MMA as a style for beginners and decries how it's making a fool of China's long and storied martial history. She gets in his face, demanding to know if he thinks she's wrong and pleading for his understanding. But Hashizaki's mind is on another problem. He begins to tell her about a recent incident where a kid she brought ended up fighting his best friend, causing a rift between them. However, Chin is too caught up in her own misery to listen. As Hashizaki mentions being rejected by his friend, she violently grabs his shirt, screaming at him to shut up. Completely ignoring his attempt to share his own troubles, she declares that she hates guys who talk too much. Chin continues her tirade, illogically blaming a bewildered Hashizaki for all her problems. He can only look on in disbelief, hand held to the cheek she just slapped. Her meltdown intensifies as she shakes Hashizaki, lamenting that Tsuyoshi hates her and her fighting alliance is crumbling. He tries to get her to stop as she frantically hits him, demanding that he fix the situation. Having reached his breaking point, Hashizaki finally roars for her to stop. His outburst works, and Chin freezes mid-assault, staring at him with wide eyes. In a baffling display of mood whiplash, Chin's demeanor instantly shifts. She smiles sweetly as if nothing happened, pleased that he finally gets it, and then demands he accompany her to help Tsuyoshi with his drawing. The scene shifts to Tsuyoshi's quiet home, where his friend Ainashuk has come a visit. Ainashuk suddenly brings up a sketch Tsuyoshi made, asking what happened to the girl in the drawing, leaving Tsuyoshi confused. Ainashuk reveals he's been snooping, showing Tsuyoshi text messages on his phone with a girl named Chin. A furious Tsuyoshi demands to know how he got into his phone, feeling his privacy has been completely violated. Tsuyoshi insists it's all a misunderstanding and that Chin is just a co-worker, but Ainashuk playfully encourages him to ask her on a date to the museum, completely misreading the situation. Tsuyoshi vehemently refuses. Just as their conversation gets heated, the doorbell rings. Tsuyoshi, relieved by the interruption, goes to answer it, assuming it's his friend Hashizaki. To his surprise, it's not Hashizaki. At his door stands a strange trio, a flamboyantly dressed man in sunglasses, a large muscular man with a top knot, and a short, stout man snacking on a bun. Tsuyoshi is utterly baffled by the uninvited guests. The man in sunglasses, Ji-Fei, introduces himself, stating that he was impressed by Tsuyoshi's skills as a martial artist and wishes to fight him. He confidently steps inside, closing the door behind him. Tsuyoshi wants no part of it and immediately slams the door in their faces, locking it. While his friend questions the hasty reaction, Ji-Fei's face comically appears through the mail slot, begging to be heard. His friends, now spooked, wonder if the man is a stalker. Fed up, Tsuyoshi yanks the door open and shouts at the persistent visitors to go away, as they are bothering him and his guests. The group has now moved to the yard, with Ji-Fei refusing to leave things unresolved. Inside, Ainashuk asks in shock if Tsuyoshi actually got into a fight, while the other two martial artists, Yunjiao and Lu Lan, wait patiently. Tsuyoshi vehemently denies ever fighting, but his friend Ainashuk undermines him by whispering to the intruders that Tsuyoshi can be unfriendly sometimes, siding with the strangers. Deciding to handle it himself, Tsuyoshi goes outside to confront the group directly. He tells them plainly that they are a nuisance and demands that they leave his property. As Ji-Fei continues to plead, Tsuyoshi's patience finally snaps. His expression turns deadly cold as he leans in and delivers a chilling whisper. "If you say something more, I'll kill you." The entire mood shifts from comical to terrifying. Tsuyoshi's threat hangs in the air, leaving Ji-Fei completely stunned. He takes an involuntary step back, the gravity of the warning sinking in as the chapter title shifts to Natural Enemy. The sheer killing intent behind Tsuyoshi's words sends a jolt of fear through Ji-Fei, causing him to stumble backward in shock. Having made his point, Tsuyoshi stands perfectly still, his expression unreadable, a stark contrast to the intense threat he just issued. As his companions ask what's wrong, Ji-Fei processes the terrifying encounter. He realizes the bloodlust he felt was genuine, concluding that if he lets his guard down for even an instant, Tsuyoshi will kill him without hesitation. Tsuyoshi calmly but firmly reiterates his position. He doesn't care who they are or where they're from. He just wants them to stay out of his private life. One of Ji-Fei's companions, Lu Lan-san, steps forward, accepting the terms of the confrontation. He declares that if a fight is what Tsuyoshi wants, then they will fight. Pushed to his limit, Tsuyoshi's eye twitches. He finally relents, but with a grave warning. He will no longer hold back his power. The two martial artists opposite him sense the shift in his aura. A serious look washes over Tsuyoshi's face as he finally accepts their challenge, confirming he's ready to fight them. The muscular martial artist, Yunjiao, smirks, pleased that Tsuyoshi will finally fight seriously. As his leader Zhifei questions his readiness, Yun Diao confidently confirms he has a plan, stepping forward as the first to battle. Tsuyoshi watches, waiting for his first opponent to make a move. In a brief flashback, Yun Diao recalls his master's words. He reveals that Qin Shanmei provided him with intelligence on Tsuyoshi's fighting style, giving him the confidence to declare, "I know I can defeat him." Back in the present, Tsuyoshi steps forward to face his opponent, casually apologizing for the delay, while Zhifei and Lu Lansan watch with anticipation. Yun Diao cracks his knuckles, his expression hardening with serious intent. With a simple "let's start," the battle is officially underway. Tsuyoshi stares back, his eyes wide and seemingly innocent behind his large glasses. The two fighters stand opposite each other on the quiet residential street, a stark contrast in size and demeanor. The fight begins as Yun Diao lunges forward, unleashing a powerful and committed punch aimed directly at Tsuyoshi's face. With surprising agility, Tsuyoshi effortlessly dodges the blow. Yun Diao's punch misses its mark, and he's thrown off balance by a deceptively simple countermaneuver from Tsuyoshi. As Yun Diao stumbles, a shocked Zhifei questions how Tsuyoshi could so easily throw him off. He recognizes that Tsuyoshi's posture is key to the unusual technique. Before Yun Diao can recover his footing, Tsuyoshi follows up with a swift, sharp kick to his opponent's inner leg, landing a solid blow. While his companions react with alarm and curiosity, Yun Diao finds himself on the ground. In a bizarre turn of events, Tsuyoshi pauses the fight to kindly offer his downed opponent a can of coffee. A close-up reveals Tsuyoshi's disarmingly friendly and slightly goofy smile, completely out of place in the middle of a serious confrontation. Ignoring the peace offering, Yun Diao attacks from the ground with a sweeping kick, but Tsuyoshi dodges it with ease. The scene transitions into a flashback, taking us to a training hall in China. Here, the brutal origin of Yun Diao's strength is about to be revealed. We see a younger Yun Diao crying out in agony as his master, Shifu Wang, inflicts excruciating pain on him, grabbing him by the crotch and coldly stating that full-body training leaves no part of the body untrained. Yun Diao is thrown to the ground, but his master shows no mercy, ordering him to get up and repeat the torturous training exercise. The training becomes even more horrifying. A terrified Yun Diao is shackled to a wall, spread-eagled, with a wooden block labeled "Destroy" placed over his groin, unsure of the terrible ordeal that awaits him. While his master watches impassively, another man strikes the wooden block with a heavy pole. The pole cracks on impact, and Yun Diao lets out a gut-wrenching scream. As the brutal beatings continue, Yun Diao weeps, believing he's going to die. His master simply urges him to endure the pain, promising it will lead him to a new world of power. A close-up shot captures the absolute terror and agony on young Yun Diao's face as he endures the inhuman training. His master explains the essence of hard qigong is to control the flow of qi rather than relying on muscle. In his mind, Yun Diao panics, realizing that if he fails to learn this, the training will kill him. Despite Yun Diao's screams of pain, the master continues the relentless exercise without a hint of compassion. The flashback moves to Yun Diao's final test. He stands before an ornate temple gate where a massive, suspended battering ram awaits, ready for the ultimate trial of his spirit and body. Yun Diao watches in horror as another trainee is strapped to a post in the path of the ram. He questions the excessive nature of the test, but his master simply orders him to proceed. With sickening force, the massive log slams into the crotch of the chained man, a brutal demonstration of the power and sacrifice required by their art. Yun Diao looks on, speechless and horrified by what he's just witnessed. He then realizes that he is next, as he now finds himself chained to the post, awaiting the same devastating blow. The flashback concludes with his master's grotesque smile of approval. "You made it," he exclaims, congratulating a traumatized Yun Diao for surviving the final, emasculating test and achieving a new level of power. Returning to the present, the fight continues. Tsuyoshi, unfazed by the flashback, aims a precise punch directly at Yundiao's groin, targeting the very source of his opponent's hardened defense. Yundiao grits his teeth as Tsuyoshi's fist makes solid contact. The impact is powerful, a direct test to the hard qigong he sacrificed so much to master. To Tsuyoshi's surprise, Yundiao doesn't even flinch. Instead, a crazed grin spreads across his face as he effortlessly absorbs the blow. Tsuyoshi tries again, but the result is the same. While the onlookers watch, Yundiao stands firm, his confidence unshaken. Tsuyoshi, however, starts to look confused, his breathing becoming heavier as he realizes his attacks are completely ineffective. Yundiao's grin widens into a triumphant, maniacal laugh as he taunts his opponent, boasting that such a direct attack will never work on him. Tsuyoshi is left questioning what he's seeing. Yundiao begins to explain the extreme nature of his training, revealing that in the process of mastering qigong, his body was shredded beyond recognition. Flexing with an aura of dark power, Yundiao makes his shocking and absurd final declaration. The training was so intense that his testicles completely disappeared. Tsuyoshi and his friend are left utterly speechless at the bizarre revelation. A massive, muscular man named Yundiao stands before Tsuyoshi, making a bizarre and shocking claim. He trained so much that his testicles disappeared. With a smug, confident grin, Yundiao tells Tsuyoshi that he can't possibly be beaten. In the background, his companions, Jifei and Lu Lan-san, look on in stunned silence. Tsuyoshi stares back, his expression shifting from confusion to annoyance. He bluntly asks Yundiao, "Don't you think that's stupid?" Yundiao's grin doesn't falter as he explains his philosophy that one must sacrifice something to gain something. Unimpressed, Tsuyoshi questions the point of making such an extreme sacrifice. Yundiao elaborates that by losing his weak point, his hard qigong has reached its peak. This revelation is too much for his companions, who can only mutter that his dedication is insane. As Yundiao turns to walk away, his associate Jifei explains to the others that the removal of testicles normally hinders muscle development by preventing androgen production. Jifei remarks that it takes an extraordinary will for Yundiao to maintain such a muscular body under those conditions. As he speaks, Yundiao takes a sudden, aggressive step forward. Without any further warning, Yundiao lunges forward, throwing a powerful, committed punch directly at Tsuyoshi's face. But Tsuyoshi is faster. He easily dodges the attack and counters with a swift strike of his own, aimed at Yundiao's abdomen. The blow lands, but Yundiao doesn't even flinch. He smirks, mocking Tsuyoshi for attacking the central part of his body, believing it to be a useless gesture. Yundiao boasts that the essence of his martial art is to eliminate all weak points, turning his body into an impenetrable iron wall that can resist any attack. Confident in his defense, Yundiao winds up for another powerful punch, aiming to overwhelm Tsuyoshi with sheer force. However, Tsuyoshi effortlessly raises his hand and stops the punch completely, his calm expression contrasting with the surprise dawning on Yundiao's face. A sharp pain shoots through Yundiao's body. He lets out a cry of pain as he instinctively clutches his chest where Tsuyoshi's hand made contact. Yundiao stumbles backward, his body thrown off balance by the unexpected impact. Tsuyoshi remains perfectly still, observing his opponent's reaction. Not giving him a moment to recover, Tsuyoshi presses his advantage, launching a powerful and precise kick towards Yundiao. Yundiao grunts in pain as the kick connects, forcing him back even further. He struggles to regain his footing as Tsuyoshi continues his rapid assault. Tsuyoshi moves with blinding speed, landing a series of precise blows that seem to ignore Yundiao's famed iron-like defense. One of the strikes lands squarely on Yundiao's collarbone. An X-ray view reveals the bone cracking under the pressure, and Yundiao's eyes widen in pure shock. Yundiao stares at his arm in disbelief, realizing he can't raise it. His companions are horrified, with one shouting, "Did he break his clavicle?" As the two fighters face each other, a couple, Chin and her friend, arrive on the scene, looking confused by the confrontation taking place. Ignoring the newcomers, Tsuyoshi unleashes a furious barrage of punches, relentlessly striking Yundiao's chest with machine gun-like speed. All the onlookers, from Yundiao's companions to the newly arrived couple, can only watch in stunned silence as Yundiao screams in agony, completely overwhelmed by the assault. Yundiao is on the brink of collapse, feeling his consciousness fading with each devastating blow. Across from him, Tsuyoshi's knuckles are now bloody, his expression still locked in intense focus. The relentless assault finally ceases. Yundiao, battered and broken, slumps to the ground, completely defeated. Tsuyoshi stands over him, his body still tense with fighting energy. As Yundiao lies defeated, Tsuyoshi clenches his fist, looking as if he's about to deliver another blow. But before he can, Hashizaki lunges forward and grabs his arm, yelling at him to stop since his opponent is already badly injured. Hashizaki, clearly concerned and confused by the scene, demands that Tsuyoshi tell him what happened. Tsuyoshi looks away, trying to brush off the intense situation by claiming that it's nothing to worry about. Hashizaki clenches his fist in frustration, complaining about having to deal with guys who stalk people and starts spewing illogical nonsense. While Yundiao's companions rush over to check on him, Tsuyoshi explains his reasoning to Hashizaki, stating that he despises people who would sacrifice something so important so easily. Hashizaki is surprised to see Shanmei has also arrived, questioning her presence just as Tsuyoshi declares that people like Yundiao are the type he hates the most. Chin looks at Tsuyoshi with a guilty expression and apologizes. Ignoring her, Tsuyoshi turns to the remaining fighters and calmly asks, "And who is next?" The stout man in the floral shirt, Lu Lansan, steps forward with a serene smile, volunteering to be Tsuyoshi's next opponent. Jifei warns Lu Lansan not to embarrass Chinese martial arts. Unfazed, Tsuyoshi simply acknowledges the situation, saying, "I get it." Lu Lansan calmly explains that he believes only he can truly measure Tsuyoshi's strength, because they use the same style of fighting. A new chapter begins, titled Key. Lu Lansan takes a deliberate step forward, ready to begin his match against Tsuyoshi. Lu Lansan extends his hand in a formal gesture, a traditional start to a Tai Chi bout, and asks Tsuyoshi if he understands what it means. Tsuyoshi accepts the challenge, and the two fighters meet, hands touching as they assume the classic Tuei show, or pushing hand stance. Watching from the sidelines, Chin explains to a confused Hashizaki that this is Tuei show, a unique practice in Tai Chi where opponents join hands to seamlessly blend attack, defense, and counterattack. Chin continues her explanation, noting that while it resembles the initial clash in sumo, the real difference is that they are fighting with their ki, their internal energy, which creates an intense, invisible struggle. In a sudden shift, Lu Lansan is forced to take a step back, a flicker of surprise on his face as he feels the immense pressure from Tsuyoshi's ki. Hashizaki's eyes widen in shock. The bout continues. Hashizaki is amazed as Lu Lansan masterfully deflects an attack from Tsuyoshi, smoothly moving into his opponent's range. The movements are fluid and continuous. Tsuyoshi initiates another attack, but Lu Lansan redirects it with a graceful, circular motion. Their energies are visualized as flowing ribbons, weaving around each other in a complex dance of force and redirection, a silent battle of skill. Hashizaki watches, completely bewildered. He asks why there's no sound, questioning if they are even seriously attacking each other. Chin explains that this is Hua Jin, the basis of Tai Chi, where they divert and nullify the energy of attacks. She notes that if used continuously, the energy flows without ever landing a decisive blow. Suddenly, Tsuyoshi breaks from the fluid exchange and lands a direct, powerful punch to Lu Lansan's midsection. The impact sends Lu Lansan sliding backward, his feet digging into the ground to absorb the force. Hashizaki and Chin look on, shocked by the sudden escalation. Chin quickly explains what happened. They nullified the attack with Fa Jin, a technique where you add your own energy to your opponents to counterattack. A diagram illustrates the concept, but Hashizaki is left more confused than ever. Hashizaki is agitated by the explanation of Fa gene, recalling a previous fight. He desperately asks Chin how to achieve that kind of power, but she angrily tells him to shut up and figure out on his own. Hashizaki begs Chin to explain, but she refuses, saying she hates pushy men. Jifei then intervenes, telling Hashizaki he must train his Nigong and learn to power his attacks with ki, rather than just muscle. Still confused, Hashizaki questions if Nigong and ki are really the secret, not just pure muscle strength. Jifei adjusts his sunglasses, cryptically stating that the ki is using attack energy in a different way. Jifei mentions hearing about Hashizaki's fight with a kid named Lu. He then clarifies that Lu told him it was actually Hashizaki's friend, not Hashizaki himself, who did the defeating, and that he has no relation to it. With a smirk, Jifei admits that while he had always thought Japan was unimpressive, what he's witnessing now has changed his mind. Hashizaki can only glare back at him in response. Back in the fight, the mood shifts as Lu Lansan suddenly grabs Tsuyoshi's arm. The sudden, sharp movement startles the onlookers. The fight explodes into a flurry of afterimages, showing the two combatants exchanging a multitude of strikes at an incredible speed. Tsuyoshi unleashes a rapid-fire series of punches, but Lu Lansan, with surprising agility, deflects and parries every single blow. Tsuyoshi changes tactics, throwing a sharp elbow strike, only to be met with an equally fast response from his opponent. Lu Lansan counters the elbow with a precise kick, the two impacts meeting with a force that creates a small shockwave between them. The exchange becomes a whirlwind of motion, a chaotic yet controlled dance of strikes and blocks, as neither fighter can gain an advantage. A montage of close-ups reveals the high-speed, intricate hand movements of their battle. Fists are redirected by open palms, and energy is deflected as they continue their silent, lightning-fast duel. The intense exchange culminates in both fighters throwing a straight punch simultaneously, their fists colliding with explosive force. The impact sends both Tsuyoshi and Lu Lansan sliding backward across the pavement, a testament to the immense power behind their seemingly effortless clash. The onlookers are left speechless. The frantic pace comes to a halt. The two fighters face each other from a distance, and Lu Lansan asks Tsuyoshi to tell him something. Lu Lansan asks an unexpected question: "How old are you?" Tsuyoshi, momentarily confused, replies that he is 22 years old. Lu Lansan nods thoughtfully in response. Suddenly, with a wide, genuine smile, Lu Lansan declares his surrender, shouting, "I admit my defeat." His teammates and the other onlookers are completely stunned by this turn of events. Lu Lansan begins to explain his decision. He reveals he is 42 years old and has dedicated his life to martial arts, understanding that training Nigong, internal energy, takes an immense amount of time and effort. He concludes his thought, stating with certainty that no one could possibly develop such a powerful Nigong at a young age like 22. As Jifei questions him, Lu Lansan clarifies his point. Tsuyoshi's overwhelming power doesn't come solely from his mastery of Tai Chi. Looking at Tsuyoshi from afar, Lu Lansan explains that this kind of strength, the ability to react to any attack and defeat foes without hesitation, is not something that can be acquired through normal means. Jifei realizes the chilling implication. Tsuyoshi's power is the result of having experienced countless battles. Lu Lansan then turns the question to him, asking if he thinks he can overcome such an opponent. An older man in a hat, Lu Shifei, turns to a man with long hair and sunglasses named Shifei, asking him if he thinks he can overcome a certain challenge. Listening in are Chin Shanmei, Hashizaki, and a confused Tsuyoshi. The scene focuses on Shifei, a man with an imposing presence. He is described as a Bajiquin user, so powerful that he's called the reincarnation of the legendary martial artist, Li Shuwen. Chin Shanmei and Hashizaki are unfamiliar with the name Li Shuwen. Chen explains that he was regarded as the strongest and most famous martial artist in Chinese history, as an image of the legendary figure appears. The story of Li Shuwen's prowess continues, explaining that he founded the Eight Extremities Fist. He was so deadly that he killed almost every opponent he faced with a single blow, leaving a pile of defeated martial artists in his wake. Lu Shifei elaborates that Chinese martial arts are fundamentally different because they were designed for actual combat, where fighting to the death is not unusual. This shocks Hashizaki, who exclaims in disbelief about him being the strongest. Lu Shifei says that this style of fighting is a thing of the past, as fewer people now understand its true essence. However, Hashizaki interjects, stating that Shifei is different. Lu Shifei agrees, confirming that Shifei is one of the few martial artists who has mastered Bajikwan for real, life-or-death combat. Hashizaki is appalled by the idea of killing each other in this day and age, calling it nuts. The rest of the group seems to agree with his sentiment. To explain what real combat means, Lu Shifei begins a story. The scene flashes back 30 years to a time of war, showing a massive crowd of protesters gathered before a grand, traditional building. A much younger Lu Shifei, only 17 years old, is seen at the head of the protest. Filled with revolutionary fire, he shouts for democratization, ready to change history even if it means facing down a line of soldiers. The situation escalates dramatically as tanks begin to roll in, facing the massive crowd of protesters. Undeterred, the young Lu Shifei stands at the front, armed with a long staff, ready to confront the military head-on. Completely surrounded by armed soldiers, the young Lu Shifei shows no fear, taking a low stance with his staff, prepared for the inevitable clash. The battle begins. Lu Shifei moves with lightning speed, striking the first soldier directly in the face with the end of his staff. He becomes a whirlwind of motion, expertly using his staff to fend off multiple soldiers who are attacking him from all sides. Switching from his staff to hand-to-hand combat, Lu Shifei brutally punches one soldier and follows up with a powerful kick, demonstrating his versatile martial arts skills. Panting, Lu Shifei stands his ground amidst a sea of fallen soldiers, a lone fighter against an entire army. The remaining soldiers look on in terror and disbelief, shocked by the power of this one young man. Lu Shifei glares back, his determination unwavering despite being heavily outnumbered. Suddenly, the ground rumbles. Lu Shifei looks up in alarm as a tank takes aim directly at the crowd of protesters and fires its main cannon. A massive explosion rips through the square, sending bodies flying. Lu Shifei himself is thrown back by the sheer force of the blast. Following the tank blast, the soldiers are ordered to shoot. They open fire with their rifles on the terrified, fleeing civilians, turning the protest into a massacre. Amidst the chaos and carnage, soldiers begin to seize the surviving protesters. A wounded Lu Shifei is seen on the ground, overwhelmed as people are dragged away and subdued around him. The scene shows the full horror of the event, a wide-scale slaughter, with tanks firing relentlessly into the defenseless crowd. Dazed and wounded, Lu Shifei stares in absolute horror at the battlefield covered with the dead and dying, his comrades and fellow citizens slaughtered before his eyes. His shock and horror begin to twist into something terrifying. A crazed, unnerving smile spreads across his face as he mutters in disbelief that his own country is using tanks on its civilians, and a dark resolve forms within him. With an expression of pure, unadulterated rage, Lu Shifei rises to his feet. Cursing the rotten country, his broken spirit is remade into one of pure vengeance, and he prepares to unleash his fury. Continuing the flashback, the enraged young Lu Shifei dives back into the fray, delivering a powerful blow to a soldier's midsection. He fights with reckless abandon, taking down soldier after soldier. A military commander watches in fury as Lu Shifei lands another devastating strike. Fueled by grief and anger, he relentlessly attacks the soldiers, his face a mask of fury as he punches another opponent. With a crazed look in his eyes, Lu Shifei continues his one-man war against the army, a whirlwind of destruction in the middle of the massacre. His foot steps down with such force that it cracks the pavement, a testament to the raw power he's unleashing in his desperate, rage-filled assault. The flashback concludes with a final, brutal punch, showing the desperate and violent struggle that defined Lu Shifei's past. The story returns to the present. Shifei explains that Lu Shifei survived those turbulent times using the Bajiquan he'd practiced since childhood. Qin Shanmei remarks on the irony that he now uses his skills for the very government he once fought against. Tsuyoshi looks at Shifei with curiosity. Shifei, noticing the attention, addresses the nickname he was given earlier, Li Shuan, admitting with a slight smile that there was a time he was called that. Taking off his sunglasses, Shifei downplays the legend. He tells Tsuyoshi not to read too much into it, honestly admitting that he has no idea how the rumor even started. The scene shifts to an art studio, where a group of people are waiting. A sleepy man with long hair complains that Tsuyoshi is taking a long time, yawning. The sleepy man wonders if Tsuyoshi got into a fight, but another person scoffs at the idea, saying Tsuyoshi would be killed instantly. They mention that Hashizaki will be arriving soon, so it should be fine. Back outside, Tsuyoshi and Shifei face each other, the tension thick enough to be a new chapter titled Prepare to Die. Lu Shifei's voiceover explains that while Shifei is one of the strongest fighters he knows, Tsuyoshi possesses a hidden power. With a wicked grin, Lu Shifei admits he has no idea who will win. Qin Shanmei identifies the impending duel as a clash between Tai Chi and Bajiquan, while Hashizaki watches intently. Shifei raises the stakes, telling a wide-eyed Tsuyoshi that their battle might just change the very history of Chinese martial arts. Tsuyoshi, completely unfazed, calmly states that he doesn't know who Li Shuan is. He then looks at Shifei and declares, "But you're the last one," implying Shifei is the final opponent on his list. Tsuyoshi lays out his condition for the fight. If Shifei loses, he must promise to never appear before Tsuyoshi again. Shifei smirks and agrees to the terms. As Tsuyoshi and Shifei prepare to fight, Hashizaki watches with a look of intense seriousness, while the others look on with concern. Suddenly, Hashizaki steps in between them, glaring at Shifei. To everyone's surprise, he bends down and picks up a rock from the ground, interrupting the standoff. With a powerful grunt, Hashizaki hurls the rock with incredible force, not at Tsuyoshi, but directly towards a stunned Shifei. The rock smashes into the wall, just inches from Shifei's head, cracking the concrete. The unexpected and powerful display leaves everyone, including Tsuyoshi, completely shocked. Infuriated by the surprise attack, Shifei turns to Hashizaki and angrily shouts, "Oi, where you doi-dash?" Before he can finish his sentence, Hashizaki closes the distance in an instant and lands a solid punch right on Shifei's jaw. Though knocked off balance, Shifei shows his expertise by landing gracefully in a low stance, absorbing the blow's impact. Hashizaki simultaneously drops into a fighting position. A surprised and angry Shifei stares intently at Hashizaki, who has now taken a fighting stance, and menacingly says, "You?" Hashizaki stares back with unwavering determination, demanding to know, "What's the meaning of this?" It's clear he has challenged Shifei himself. Hashizaki explains his reasoning to a confused Tsuyoshi, whose last name is revealed to be Kawabata. He tells Tsuyoshi that he doesn't need to fight, since Hashizaki lost to him. If Hashizaki can now beat Shifei, it will prove Tsuyoshi's strength by proxy. Shifei seems surprised that Hashizaki would use a surprise attack to start a fight. Hashizaki just smirks back, confirming that this is indeed a fight. Hashizaki mockingly asks if this isn't how Shifei fought in his war. He then lays down the challenge directly. If Shifei wants to fight Tsuyoshi, he has to go through him first. He continues to taunt the Bajiquan master, dismissively calling his martial art Extreme Octopus Fist or whatever, making it clear that it doesn't matter to him. Cracking his knuckles, Hashizaki makes a bold declaration, his voice filled with conviction, since karate is stronger than anything. Shurfei is amused by Hashizaki's audacity, a sinister smile spreading across his face. He accepts the challenge, telling Hashizaki he'll give him the fight he desires if he's so eager to die. With a confident smirk, Hashizaki begins to narrate his past. The scene flashes back to Ginza, an exclusive club district bustling with powerful politicians and business figures. He reveals that the owner of a lavish club in the area, a poised and elegant woman named Hashizaki Itsuko, is his mother. A man in a fedora, surrounded by an entourage, enters the club. He is a regular, and clearly a man of significant power. This man is revealed to be Chief Cabinet Secretary Iwamuro Kansuki, Hashizaki's father. He and Hashizaki's mother are in a relationship, sharing a drink at the club. The frame isolates a young Hashizaki, who plainly states the reality of his situation. He is the illegitimate child of these two powerful figures. The flashback continues. Hashizaki's mother was rarely home, often leaving him notes and money for food. To fill the empty space, he would invite his classmates over to his huge apartment. His friends were astounded by his massive monthly allowance of 300,000 yen. For young Hashizaki, this wealth was a tool to stave off loneliness. With his allowance, he could buy anything he wanted. His home became a haven for his friends, filled with entire manga collections, all the latest game consoles, and endless snacks. He surrounded himself with people he thought were his friends, spending his days playing video games and eating cake, believing this was the best life could be. Whenever they grew bored of playing at home, he would take everyone out, treating them all at the local arcade. He remembers smiling, thinking he was truly blessed with good friends. At the arcade, a group of older bullies tries to intimidate them and take their seats. His friends immediately turn to him, calling his name for help. Thanks to his natural strength, Hashizaki was also good at fighting. He easily pins the bully to the ground, forcing him to give up while his friends cheer in the background. He found purpose in this role. Whenever there was a fight, his friends would call on him, and he admits it felt good to be relied on. It gave him a sense of worth. But things began to change when he entered middle school, and he started to feel like he was making a big mistake. His friends began asking to borrow money, which he gave away freely. He was no longer just a friend, but an enforcer and a wallet. He was used to run errands, like buying cigarettes, and to fight their battles for them. He was part of their group, smoking with them behind the school, but the dynamic had shifted. He was being used, but he went along with it to maintain the illusion of friendship. Then, one winter day, his world came crashing down when he was ambushed and punched hard in the side of the head. He's suddenly confronted by a rival delinquent who heard he was getting cocky. As Hashizaki looks up in surprise, the trap he didn't see coming is sprung. The fight leaves him beaten and bloodied, slumping against a wall in a filthy alley. But the physical pain is nothing compared to the cold reality that is about to set in. As his so-called friends walk away, they mock him, calling him a small fry. Hashizaki realizes with dawning horror that he didn't even know the delinquents who attacked him. He was set up and sacrificed. Days later, Hashizaki sits alone in a hospital room. He checks his phone, only to find an empty inbox. Not a single one of his friends had reached out, confirming his complete abandonment. A week later, still bandaged, Hashizaki returns to his classroom. His former friends greet him with feigned nonchalance, as if nothing happened. They comment on his rough appearance, but when he tries to reconnect by suggesting they all go to karaoke, they quickly make excuses, claiming to be busy. Forcing a pained smile, Hashizaki pretends to understand. As he hobbles away on a crutch, he overhears them laughing behind his back, the sound of their betrayal echoing in his ears. Moments later, he sees them hanging out in the park, realizing they lied just to get rid of him. The truth of his isolation begins to set in. He then overhears their true feelings. They find him annoying, calling him by his first name, Enosuk, but hanging out with him is profitable. He was never a friend, just a wallet. He finally puts all the pieces together. His friends had been using his name to mug people, and the delinquents who attacked him were simply there to get revenge on Hashizaki for things he didn't even do. He remembers them telling him to fight for them because he was strong and because they were friends. The words now feel like a cruel joke. A flood of memories overwhelms him. In a painful epiphany, he realizes that the people he called his friends were never his friends at all. He was simply a tool for them to use and discard. The crushing weight of his reality settles in. With no father, a mother who was never home, and now no friends, he was truly and utterly alone, the ultimate loner. At his absolute lowest, limping on a crutch through the streets, Hashizaki spots a small dojo. A poster taped to the door calls out to him, promising that karate is the cure for bullying, extortion, and loneliness. Driven by a desperate impulse, he opens the door. Inside, he sees people in GIs practicing, their powerful movements filling the room with energy. As the students practice, Hashizaki awkwardly steps inside. He announces that he was bullied and has no friends, and humbly asks if they can teach him karate. A charismatic man with light-colored hair approaches him with a welcoming smile. He notes Hashizaki's strong build and asks if he wants to give it a try, introducing himself as Yumioka. The long flashback concludes, returning to the present day. Hashizaki narrates that in front of him stands a powerful opponent who survived a war in China. And beside him, watching silently, is Tsuyoshi, the strongest man that no one can beat. The combination of these two monumental figures fills him with purpose. A wide, almost feral grin spreads across Hashizaki's face. The challenge, the danger, the opportunity to prove himself. It all makes his blood boil with pure excitement. The group relocates to a nearby park, a more suitable arena for the coming battle. As Hashizaki stretches, he notes that it will be easier to fight here. A new chapter begins, Disadvantage. As the fight is about to begin, Lu Fei is laid out comfortably on some cardboard to watch. Qin Shanmei and Tsuyoshi look on as Fei stares down Hashizaki, the atmosphere thick with tension. Hashizaki quickly strategizes. He knows Fei's reflexes are too sharp for a direct attack. He dismisses the idea of a counter and decides on a trade-off. He'll take a hit to land one of his own. Remembering the power of his punch that cracked a stone wall, Hashizaki feels confident. He believes that even if he only lands a single strike, it could be enough to end the fight. Both combatants take their fighting stances. The fight begins. Fei explodes forward, closing the distance in a blur of motion. Hashizaki watches him come, tensed and ready to execute his plan. Hashizaki tries to match his opponent's timing, preparing to trade blows. But Fei's speed is overwhelming, and his fist is already inches from Hashizaki's face. Fei's punch connects with immense force. The powerful blow, a technique from Bajikwan called Chusui, slams into Hashizaki, sending him reeling backwards. The spectators look on in shock. Hashizaki stumbles back, his face contorted in pain from the devastating punch. Yet, to everyone's amazement, he digs his heels in and remains standing. Dazed and confused, Hashizaki touches his chin, wondering what just happened, feeling as though he almost blacked out from the single blow. Lu Fei explains the attack to the others. It was Chusui, a basic Bajikwan thrusting technique that channels the entire body's power, from the step to the fist, into one explosive point. He continues, stating that the technique's purpose is to not have to strike twice. But Qin Shanmei points out the obvious. Despite not even blocking, Hashizaki is somehow still standing. Fei is in utter disbelief, sweat beading on his face. He cannot comprehend how Hashizaki took a full-power Chusui head-on and didn't go down. The spectators are equally stunned. Clutching his own chest, Fei realizes with shock that Hashizaki had anticipated the hit and was prepared to trade blows, a feat of incredible toughness and resolve. Hashizaki grimaces, the pain radiating through his chest. He thinks to himself that it felt like being struck with a blunt weapon and admits that this man is not all talk. The two fighters face each other once more. The initial exchange is over, and both now understand the seriousness of the opponent before them. Their expressions hardened with determination. Hashizaki cautiously adjusts his footing, a bead of sweat running down his face. After feeling Shurfei's power, he knows he can't risk closing the gap carelessly. Shurfei taunts him, asking if running away is the essence of karate. Hashizaki grits his teeth, refusing the cheap provocation while analyzing that Shurfei's attacks are linear, which could be an opening. Hashizaki maintains a low, defensive stance, patiently waiting. The spectators watch in silence as he waits for Shurfei to make the next move. Hashizaki's eyes widen as he sees Shurfei stomp his foot, the signal for another attack. There, he thinks, bracing himself as Shurfei lunges forward. Shurfei unleashes a swift, upward strike from a low stance, aiming to break Hashizaki's defense from below. The attack is identified as Daiten Hojui, or receding tide. Shurfei's fist strikes Hashizaki's thigh with brutal precision, causing him to flinch in pain. Without a moment's pause, Shurfei flows into his next attack, the Raimen Chochu, an inner gate elbow strike aimed at Hashizaki's arm. He immediately follows up with a Gaiman Chochu, an outer gate elbow strike, a relentless combination that batters Hashizaki's defenses. Gasping for breath, Hashizaki clutches his abdomen, the force of the rapid elbow strikes having knocked the wind out of him. The spectators watch with growing concern. Before Hashizaki has a chance to recover, Shurfei closes in again, his body coiled and ready to unleash another, even more devastating attack. Shurfei executes the legendary Tetsuzenko, or Iron Mountain. He slams his entire body weight into Hashizaki, who spits blood as the crushing impact connects. Hashizaki is sent stumbling back from the force of the Iron Mountain. As he struggles, a new chapter begins. Sanshin. Stunned, Hashizaki looks down at his hands, his eyes wide with shock. He clutches at his chest, realizing with panic that he can't breathe. He lets out a choked gasp, his body desperately trying to draw in air. A dark, swirling bruise is already forming on his shirt, marking the point of impact from the Tetsuzenko. His body gives out, and he collapses to the ground, his system completely shocked by the blow. The spectators look on in horror as an internal view shows his organs violently compressed. Coughing and sputtering on the ground, Hashizaki struggles to push himself up, wondering what kind of attack could possibly have had that effect. As Shurfei looks on, Hashizaki thinks to himself that the inside of his body feels like it's been completely scrambled, a sensation of damage unlike anything he has ever felt before. Shurfei asks if this is the first time Hashizaki has been hit with a Hakei, an internal energy strike. Slowly getting up, Hashizaki smirks through the pain and replies that it isn't. But this time, he's surprised none of his bones were broken, a testament to Shurfei's skill. Genuinely impressed by his opponent's resilience, Shurfei can only let out an intrigued "ho" as Hashizaki forces himself back to his feet. Hashizaki takes stock of his condition. He knows he can't muster any real strength and that a counterattack would be weak. He clenches his fist, realizing he must first set his stance properly to have any chance. Focusing his will, Hashizaki's eyes turn black with concentration. He takes a deep, powerful breath, forcing his battered body to respond and gather its remaining energy. He plants his feet firmly, entering a solid, unshakable stance. He knows it's impossible to win with a single hit. His new strategy is to endure Shurfei's next assault. The change in Hashizaki is so profound that even Shurfei's eyes widen in surprise. The spectators recognize the new posture. Chin Shanmei identifies it as Sanshin, a fundamental stance in karate. Chin Shanmei explains that karate was derived from Chinese martial arts, so the similarities in stances make sense. As if to prove her point, Hashizaki stomps his foot, cracking the ground with his newfound stability. Shurfei attacks with another powerful punch, but this time, Hashizaki doesn't dodge. Rooted by his Sanshin stance, he meets the blow head-on with a solid block. The impact is immense. An X-ray view shows the bones in their forearms colliding with violent force. Fei grunts, shocked by the power behind Hashizaki's defensive block. The two trade blows, fist against fist, a brutal exchange of power that shows Hashizaki is now able to match Fei's strength. Hashizaki absorbs another blow, his entire body tightening to dissipate the force. Fei grunts in frustration, stunned that Hashizaki can now withstand his attacks. Having weathered the storm, Hashizaki seizes the opening and unleashes a powerful punch of his own. But Fei's reflexes are incredible, and he ducks under the blow at the last second. Hashizaki looks down, his eyes black with focus, but his opponent has vanished from his sight line. He realizes Fei has dropped to the ground, but before he can react, Fei looks up, annoyed. Fei glares up at Hashizaki, who readies his guard once more. The tide of the battle has shifted, and the spectators watch with bated breath. Hashizaki unleashes a furious assault, throwing a series of powerful punches. One of them connects, and Fei grunts as the force of the blow grazes him. Even a glancing blow from Hashizaki's fist has enough power to send Fei sliding back several feet. An internal view shows the bones in Fei's arm vibrating from the sheer impact, leaving him stunned. As the fighters pause, the spectators comment on the incredible turn of events. Shin Shanmei explains that Hashizaki, or Anosuk, is actually a pretty big deal in the karate world, and Lu Fei recalls hearing a specific title for him. A confident, almost predatory smirk spreads across Hashizaki's face. His fearsome reputation is finally revealed. Bone Crusher, Iron Fist God of Destruction.